What if a routine flight suddenly vanished mid-air, not just from radar, but from reality itself? What if the last message received wasn't a mayday, but something far more terrifying? We're still in the air, but there's no sky. In this gripping true-style horror mystery, Flight 741 takes off over the Atlantic only to drift into a space that defies every law of physics and sanity. What the passengers experienced during those final transmissions was never meant for human comprehension, and the ending will leave you speechless. Before you board this terrifying journey, make sure to hit subscribe, because what's coming next might just be the story you'll never forget. The big airplane stood ready, Flight 741 bound for Tokyo. The night in Los Angeles was clear, city lights twinkling below, passengers boarded, families, business travelers, students, all full of hope. They found their seats, stowed bags and settled in. The mood was calm, a gentle hum of conversation and soft music. Flight attendants smiled, demonstrating safety belts with practiced ease. "Welcome aboard," they said. "We wish you a pleasant flight." Some passengers listened closely, others drifted into their own thoughts. A child pressed his face to the window watching the ground crew's lights dance. The plane was a small world waiting to take flight. Engines roared to life, trembling with energy. The airplane rolled away from the gate, taxiing to the runway. The pilot's voice came over the speaker, friendly and confident. "Weather is good," he assured them. "The flight will be smooth." Passengers leaned back, feeling the gentle push as the plane accelerated. Runway lights blurred past. Then the airplane lifted into the dark sky. Los Angeles shrank below, a peaceful grid of lights. Passengers watched until the city faded to a faint glow. The plane leveled out high above the clouds. The seatbelt sign turned off. People began to relax. Some read, some watched movies, others closed their eyes. The flight had begun just as planned. It was a perfectly ordinary night, high above the sleeping world. No one suspected anything unusual. The hum of the engines was steady, comforting. The cabin lights glowed softly. Outside, the sky was a deep, endless black. The journey to Tokyo was underway. For now, everything was as it should be. Flight 741 soared into the night. The airplane flew on, a speck in the vast night. For hours, everything was normal. Drinks, snacks, quiet conversation. Most passengers slept, the cabin peaceful and still. Outside, the darkness was complete, deeper than usual. A young woman stared out her window, puzzled by the absence of moon or stars. Tonight, there was nothing, just a solid wall of black. Others noticed, too, glancing out, searching for any light. The darkness felt wrong, heavier than any night before. It was as if the plane had entered a place where light could not exist. Unease spread among the few awake. Even the cabin lights seemed dimmer, the air colder. The darkness pressed in, unsettling and absolute. The sleeping passengers remained unaware. But for those awake, the journey had taken a strange turn. The ordinary night was gone. The plane felt isolated, cut off from the world. The hum of the engines was the only anchor to reality. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. No one could explain the darkness. It was as if the sky itself had vanished. The sense of wrongness grew. The flight continued deeper into the unknown. The endless dark surrounded them. The unease grew, spreading like a cold whisper. Passengers spoke in hushed voices, eyes wide with worry. "Do you see anything?" one asked. "Nothing. It's too dark," came the reply. The void outside was absolute. The darkness seeped into the cabin, chilling the air. Flight attendants noticed the tension, offering water and forced smiles. "We're just flying through thick cloud," one reassured, but her eyes betrayed doubt. She too had looked out and felt the unnatural chill. More passengers woke, whispers growing louder. A child whimpered, his mother pale with worry. The airplane felt like a tiny, lost world, trapped in endless night. The crew made an announcement. "Unusual atmospheric conditions, but the flight is safe." The words brought little comfort. The evidence outside was too powerful. The darkness was too strange. Fear settled in every row. The whispers did not stop. The sense of isolation was immense. The plane felt cut off from everything familiar. The crew tried to maintain normalcy, but fear was now a passenger. The ordinary journey had become a nightmare. Flight 741 pressed on, deeper into the void. In the cockpit, the pilots struggled to understand. Captain Miller and co-pilot Evans checked their instruments, everything normal, but outside, only impenetrable blackness. No horizon, no stars, no moon. It was like flying through ink. Miller, a veteran pilot, had never seen anything like it. He switched on the landing lights, nothing but darkness ahead. The beams vanished, swallowed by the void. Evans checked navigation GPS, showed them on course, weather radar clear. The instruments said clear skies, but their eyes said otherwise. "This is impossible," Evans whispered. "Where are the stars?" Miller's training kept him steady, but fear crept in. He tried to think logically. Weather, dust, anything, but nothing fit. The universe outside seemed erased. They were flying through emptiness. The cockpit was tense silent except for the hum of instruments. The pilots exchanged worried glances. They had to keep flying, protect their passengers. But the sky had lost its light. The rules of nature no longer seemed to apply. Flight 741 was alone in a sky without stars. Captain Miller knew he had to report the strange conditions. He opened communication with Oakland Air Traffic Control. His voice was calm, but tension was clear. "Oakland Tower, this is Global Air 741. We're on course. All systems green, but unusual visual conditions." The controller, David, replied, "Please specify." Miller hesitated, then, "We are in complete darkness. No stars, no moon, no city lights, nothing. It is unnatural." The word hung in the air. David checked his screens. Everything looked normal. Miller continued, "Landing lights are on, but the light doesn't go anywhere. It just stops." Silence filled the radio. On the ground, controllers exchanged uneasy glances. They'd never heard a report like this. It sounded like science fiction, not a routine flight. The pilot's voice, calm but fearful, painted a terrifying picture. A lone plane, lost in an impossible night. The controllers tried to reassure but had no answers. The radio crackled with static. The sense of dread grew. The darkness outside was unexplainable. Flight 741 pressed on, searching for light. The world below was unaware. The sky remained silent and black. Below, the Pacific Ocean was invisible, swallowed by darkness. The pilots knew it was there, 35,000 feet below, but could not see it. Passengers imagined the vast, unseen water beneath them. The idea of flying over an invisible ocean was terrifying. The airplane felt like their only refuge. In the cockpit, the pilots debated, turn back, descend, or stay on course. Descending was risky. They trusted their instruments. They hoped to fly out of the darkness, but it never ended. The blackness remained absolute. Dread crept in. It felt as if they'd left their world behind. The unseen ocean became a symbol of the mystery trapping them. Flight 741 flew on, suspended between two voids. The final message from Flight 741 came after 3 a.m. It was the co-pilot, Evans, his voice panicked, broken. "They're not stars," he shouted. "Oakland, do you read me? They are not stars. They are—" A struggle, a shout, then Evans again. "The ocean is lit up. It's all wrong. We are flying upside down. No, they are coming for us. They are—" The transmission ended in static and a high-pitched scream. On the ground, controllers called out, but there was only silence. The radar icon for Flight 741 blinked, then vanished. No crash, no debris, just disappearance. The message was a puzzle. What did Evans see? What was coming? The words were not of mechanical failure, but of terror beyond understanding. The world would never forget those final, broken words. The silence that followed was absolute. Flight 741 was gone. After the final message, only silence remained. Panic erupted in the control tower. Emergency procedures began. Search and rescue teams scoured the Pacific for weeks. They found nothing. No wreckage, no oil slick, no trace. It was as if the plane and its 239 souls had never existed. The ocean kept its secrets. Families waited, hope turning to grief, then confusion. How could a modern airplane just vanish? Authorities and experts had no answers. Theories spread, secret weapons, portals, even aliens. But these were just stories to fill the void. The only truth was the silence. The world watched, obsessed with the mystery. The disappearance became legend. The sky and sea gave up nothing. The story haunted everyone who heard it. The silence was unbroken. The fate of Flight 741 was unknown. The world moved on, but the questions remained. The long, sad silence lingered. The mystery endured. Years have passed since that night. The official report lists Flight 741 as unknown, New planes fly the same route, but the story lingers. It's a modern ghost story, whispered among pilots and travelers. The legend lives on in unanswered questions. What was the darkness? What did the co-pilot see? Who or what was coming? The story reminds us of the vastness of what we do not know. Sometimes when you see a plane's lights overhead, it's comforting. But the tale of Flight 741 adds a touch of fear. It makes us wonder what else might be out there, hidden in the dark. The journey began as ordinary, but ended as an eternal mystery. We may never know what happened that night. The universe is full of beauty and light, but also darkness, and sometimes that darkness keeps its secret. Our story begins not in an airport, nor in the bustling heart of a city, but in a place where the world feels vast and unknowable. Instead, it starts on the cold, choppy waters of the Gulf of Alaska, where the wind bites and the sea stretches endlessly in every direction, shrouded in a heavy, persistent mist. Silas Blackwood, a seasoned fisherman with weathered hands and a quiet determination, was out before sunrise, his small trawler rocking gently as he cast his nets for the day's catch of salmon. The morning was routine, the kind of repetition that brings comfort, until suddenly his net snagged on something deep below, something heavy and unyielding that didn't thrash or shimmer like fish. Expecting nothing more than a tangle of seaweed or a chunk of lost debris, Silas braced himself and began to haul it in, the winch groaning and straining under the unexpected weight, echoing across the empty sea. But as the net broke the surface, it revealed not a log or a mass of trash, but a battered, scorched suitcase, its hard shell warped and blackened by fire, water, or both. One corner was crushed, deep scratches ran along its sides, and the entire case looked as if it had survived something violent and extraordinary. Against the endless grey of the sea and the low-rolling fog, the suitcase looked completely out of place, almost as if it had been dropped from another world, its presence on the deck both mysterious and unsettling. Silas stared at it, a chill running down his spine, unease prickling his skin. He'd found plenty of odd things at sea, but never anything like this. This was no ordinary lost luggage. He dragged the suitcase onto the deck, its weight surprising, water streaming from its seams and pooling around his boots, as if the case itself was weeping for what it had endured. Kneeling beside it, Silas ran his rough hand over the melted plastic, feeling the strange, uneven texture. He wondered what disaster this suitcase had survived, and what story it might tell if it could speak. How did it end up here, so far from any shipping lane or flight path, in a place where only the bravest or most desperate dared to travel? The nearest land was miles away, and the currents here were unpredictable. For a suitcase to appear in these waters, it must have travelled a long, harrowing journey. The suitcase felt like a message, a silent witness to something unimaginable, its battered form holding secrets that begged to be uncovered. Silas knew, deep down, that this was more than a strange catch. It was a sign, a clue to a story that reached far beyond his quiet life on the sea. He had found a clue to a mystery that would soon grip the world, a discovery that would draw the attention of authorities, journalists, and curious minds everywhere. The sea had given up a secret, and as the waves crashed against his boat, Silas sensed that nothing would ever be the same again. The world was about to change, and it all began with a fisherman and an unlikely catch. Back on shore, Silas called the authorities, his instincts telling him this was important. 2 state troopers arrived, skeptical but intrigued by his story. They examined the suitcase, locks fused by heat, casing warped. Then, tucked near the handle, they found a luggage tag, miraculously intact. It read, Oceanic Airlines Flight 741, Tokyo to Seattle. Name Annalise Schmidt. The officers exchanged glances. Flight 741 was infamous. It had vanished over the Pacific a year ago with 239 people on board. No wreckage, no distress call. Just gone. This suitcase was the first physical evidence ever found. Suddenly, Silas's find was international news. The battered suitcase was more than lost property. It was a key to a tragedy that had haunted the world. For the first time, there was hope of answers. The investigation had begun. Investigators, clad in protective gloves and lab coats, carefully opened the scorched suitcase, their movements deliberate and cautious. The suitcase itself was a grim artifact, its exterior blackened by fire, the metal warped from intense heat. Every inch of it told a story of chaos and destruction, and the team knew that whatever was inside had survived a harrowing ordeal. Inside, the contents were a sodden mess, soaked and ruined by seawater that had seeped into every crevice. The smell of salt and charred fabric filled the air, and the investigators gingerly sifted through the tangled, ruined belongings, searching for anything that might offer a clue. Among the heap of wet clothes and a swollen, water-damaged book, the team found personal effects, reminders of lives interrupted. Each item was catalogued, photographed, and set aside, but one object stood out from the rest. It was a small, silver digital camera. Its casing melted and cracked, the lens clouded and warped. At first glance, it seemed utterly destroyed, a casualty of both fire and water, its secrets lost forever. To most, it looked like nothing more than a piece of junk destined for the evidence bin, but the forensic experts saw potential. They understood that even the most damaged device could hold vital information if only they could coax it out. The camera's memory card, though tiny and fragile, could be the key. If it had survived, it might contain photographs or videos, snapshots of the final moments before disaster struck. Specialists in digital recovery were called in, their expertise crucial for this delicate operation. The task before them was daunting, to extract data from a device that had endured both fire and flood. The memory card was badly corroded, its metal contacts green with oxidation. The camera itself was a lost cause, but hope lingered in the possibility that the card's data might still be recoverable. With steady hands and painstaking precision, the team disassembled the camera, removing the fragile card and cleaning it with specialized tools. Every step was documented, every movement deliberate, as they prepared the card for the next phase. For weeks, the specialists worked in a sterile, clean room using microscopes and custom-built instruments to examine the card's circuitry. They ran tests, tried different recovery techniques, and consulted with experts from around the world. The odds of success were slim and the pressure was immense. Every technician knew that the smallest mistake could destroy whatever data remained. The stakes could not have been higher. Could this ruined camera, battered by fire and sea, truly reveal what happened on Flight 741? The question hung in the air, unspoken but ever present. The team pressed on, working late into the night, determined to recover even a single fragment of the story. Every byte mattered, every second counted as the world outside waited for answers. Around the globe, people watched and waited, hoping for a sign from the lost plane. A clue, a message, or a memory that could finally reveal the truth. The forensic team's patience bordered on obsession. For months they had been haunted by the mystery of Flight 741, and every scrap of evidence was treated like a sacred relic. The lab was filled with the low hum of computers and the soft clatter of keyboards as investigators worked through the night, driven by a single question: could anything be salvaged from the wreckage? Early attempts to read the memory card failed, just static and corrupted data. The screen flickered with indecipherable code, and hope seemed to fade with every failed attempt. The card, battered and nearly destroyed, was the only known digital artifact recovered from the crash site. But Dr. Aris Thorne, the lead technician, refused to give up. She was known for her relentless determination and her uncanny ability to coax life from dead technology. To her, the card was more than evidence. It was a puzzle that demanded to be solved. She tried a radical technique, bypassing the card's damaged controller chip. It was a risky move, one that could destroy what little data remained, but Dr. Thorne believed it was the only chance they had. It was delicate work, like brain surgery on a grain of rice. Every movement had to be precise, every connection flawless. The team watched in silence, knowing that a single slip could mean the loss of everything. After days of soldering and mapping, a flicker of data appeared. The screen pulsed with a faint signal, an electronic heartbeat that hinted at something hidden deep within the card's memory. Most files were lost, but one image, miraculously, was almost intact. It was as if the card had protected this single photograph, shielding it from the chaos that had destroyed everything else. It was the last photograph taken, time-stamped minutes before Flight 741 vanished. The metadata confirmed it. This was a snapshot of the final moments preserved against all odds. The team gathered as recovery software pieced the image together, line by line. Each pixel that appeared felt like a small victory, a step closer to the truth. Tension filled the lab. They were about to glimpse inside the doomed flight. No one spoke, afraid that even a whisper might break the fragile connection to the past. The picture emerged from the digital noise. Slowly, shapes and colors began to form, revealing a scene frozen in time. It was a window into the final moments. The image was haunting, filled with details that begged to be understood, the first real clue in a year. For the investigators, it was a breakthrough that reignited hope and raised new questions. The world would soon see what the camera had witnessed. News of the discovery spread quickly, and anticipation grew as experts prepared to analyze every pixel. The mystery was about to deepen. What secrets did the image hold? What story would it tell about the fate of Flight 741? One image, against all odds, had survived. It was a silent witness, waiting to reveal its secrets to the world. And it was about to change everything. The investigation had a new direction, and the world held its breath for what would come next. The image was not chaos or panic, but a quiet, ordinary moment inside the airplane cabin. The view rows of seats, a few passengers, dim nighttime lighting. Details were clear: the seat fabric, reading lights, reflections on tray tables. The photo felt candid, snapped by someone passing time. Most striking was the calm. No emergency, no oxygen masks, no warning lights. The cabin looked perfectly normal, as if the flight was proceeding smoothly. This normality was unsettling given the suitcase's violent journey. The photo offered no answers, only a haunting paradox. Peace inside, disaster outside. The last photograph deepened the mystery. What happened after this moment? The image was a silent witness to the unknown. Investigators scrutinized the passengers in the photo. A dozen faces, reading, sleeping, sharing headphones, utterly calm. No one showed fear or alarm. Their body language was relaxed. This contradicted every expectation for a disaster. Cross-referencing the manifest, they identified several people. The photographer, Anneliese Schmidt, was not visible. She was behind the lens. These were real people, caught in a moment of peace before catastrophe. The calmness was chilling, given the scorched suitcase. How could disaster strike so suddenly, with no warning at all? Investigators noticed a detail: the airplane window in the photo. Instead of stars or clouds, it showed only absolute blackness, no reflections, no ambient light, just a void. Forensic enhancement revealed nothing. It was as if the window looked onto nothing at all. Experts said even on the darkest night, some light should be visible. The total absence of light was physically inexplicable. Was it a rare atmospheric phenomenon or something stranger? Theories ranged from volcanic ash to the impossible. The photo showed calm inside and a terrifying void outside. Two realities side by side, the mystery only deepened. With so little evidence, theories flourished, some plausible, some bizarre. A sudden mechanical failure, an explosion? But why no distress, no panic? Military involvement? A secret weapon? No proof, only speculation. The blackness outside the window defied explanation. Some whispered about alien abduction, the void as the emptiness of space. No theory fit all the facts. The final photograph resisted every answer. The world was left with questions, not solutions. The enigma endured. Years later, the fate of Flight 741 remains unsolved. The ocean gave up one clue: a scorched suitcase and a haunting photograph. No other wreckage, no answers for the families left behind. The story fascinates because it defies logic and taps into our deepest fears. The final image is a perfect contradiction. Calm passengers, violent end, a normal cabin, an impossible void. It refuses to explain itself, inviting endless speculation. We wonder about... The night was clear, the kind of night that pilots dream of, when the stars seem close enough to touch, and the moonlight glimmers across the endless expanse of water below. There was a sense of peace in the air, a stillness that blanketed the world at 35,000 feet. Far below, the vast Pacific Ocean stretched out in every direction, a dark, silent witness to the journey unfolding above. The only sounds were the gentle hum of engines and the soft crackle of the radio. Inside the cockpit of Trans-Pacific Airlines Flight 741, the crew moved with practiced precision. The glow of the instrument panels cast a soft light on their faces, illuminating the calm focus of professionals at work. Captain Eva Rostova, a veteran pilot with thousands of hours in the sky, performed a routine check-in with air traffic control. Her co-pilot, First Officer Malik, monitored the instruments while the flight engineer made quiet notes in the logbook. Her voice was steady and confident as she pressed the radio switch. Honolulu Control, this is Trans-Pacific 741. We are level at flight level 350. All is well. It was a message she had delivered countless times before, a simple confirmation that everything was normal. These were the last words anyone on the ground would ever hear from the flight. In that moment, there was no hint of the extraordinary fate awaiting the aircraft and its passengers. No hint of trouble, no static, no urgency, just a portrait of normalcy. The crew exchanged a few quiet words, unaware that their routine transmission would become a haunting echo in aviation history. Moments later, Flight 741, carrying 239 souls, families, business travelers and crew, vanished from the world without a trace. One moment, a thriving community in the sky, the next, only silence. Silence replaced the calm, leaving behind a question that has haunted us for decades. Radios crackled with unanswered calls, and the control tower's lights blinked in the darkness, waiting for a reply that would never come. Families waited anxiously at the arrival gate, unaware that their loved ones had slipped into the unknown. News crews gathered, sensing the gravity of what was unfolding, but no one could offer answers. What happened after that final placid communication? Did the plane encounter a sudden, catastrophic failure? Or did something more sinister unfold in the darkness? Was it a violent storm, a mechanical failure, or a deliberate act to sever the plane from the world? Theories would swirl for years, but the truth remained elusive. The quiet that followed is more terrifying than any scream. It is the silence of unanswered questions, of lives interrupted, of a journey that simply ceased to exist. This last message is the starting point for one of aviation's greatest mysteries. Search planes scoured the ocean at dawn, but found only endless water and the weight of uncertainty. A journey that began with hope and routine ended in a void, a calm before a storm no one saw coming. The world would never be the same for those left behind. Sometimes the greatest mysteries begin not with a bang, but with a quiet whisper that fades into endless night. And in that silence we are left to wonder, to search, and to remember. On a humid Tokyo night, as neon lights flickered in the distance and the city buzzed with life, Flight 741 prepared for departure. The aircraft, a gleaming Boeing 777, stood ready at Narita International Airport, its engines humming with anticipation. This was a routine red-eye, a journey countless travelers had made before, connecting two of the world's busiest cities, Tokyo and Los Angeles, across the vast, dark expanse of the Pacific Ocean. Inside the cabin, passengers stowed their bags, adjusted their seats, and settled in for the long haul. Some drifted off to sleep almost immediately, lulled by the gentle vibration of the engines and the soft glow of reading lights. Others gazed out the windows, watching the city lights recede, their minds wandering to loved ones waiting in California, or to the adventures that awaited them on the other side of the world. In the cockpit, the pilots reviewed their checklists with practiced precision. The flight plan was standard, the weather forecast flawless, and the Boeing 777 was renowned for its reliability and safety. Every detail was accounted for, every system double-checked. It was by all appearances just another uneventful night in the world of commercial aviation. The cabin crew moved quietly through the aisles, offering drinks, blankets, and reassuring smiles. Their presence brought comfort to nervous flyers and a sense of normalcy to the journey. In the dimly lit cabin, the world outside faded away, replaced by the soft murmur of conversation and the occasional clink of a glass. For hours, the plane became a floating city in the sky, a self-contained world suspended between continents. Passengers dozed, watched movies, or lost themselves in thought, blissfully unaware of the vast emptiness below and the fragile line that separated routine from disaster. The route from Tokyo to Los Angeles is one of the world's longest over-water flights. For nearly 10 hours, there is nothing below but endless ocean. No land, no lights, just the rolling waves and the occasional glimmer of moonlight on water. It's a journey that demands trust, in technology, in the skill of the crew, and in the invisible pathways that crisscross the sky. Pilots relied on radar, satellite communications, and a network of air traffic controllers to guide them safely across the void. On their screens, the aircraft was a predictable blip, following a well-worn path until, without warning, it wasn't. In an instant, the familiar routine shattered, replaced by confusion and silence. Somewhere in the heart of the Pacific, far from any shore or ship, Flight 741 simply vanished. No distress call, no warning, just a sudden, inexplicable absence. The sky remained empty, the ocean below undisturbed, as if the plane had never existed at all. As dawn broke over Los Angeles, the city awoke to another ordinary day. But at the airport, an empty gate and a silent arrivals board told a different story. The sun rose, but Flight 741 was nowhere to be found. Families gathered at the arrivals hall, their faces etched with worry and hope. Hours passed, and the crowd thinned, but some remained, waiting for news, for answers, for a miracle that would never come. What began as a routine journey had veered into legend, leaving behind only questions and heartbreak. The ordinary had become extraordinary, a cautionary tale whispered among pilots, a mystery that haunted the aviation world, and a tragedy mourned by those left behind. In the end, Flight 741 became more than just a flight number. It became a symbol of how quickly the expected can dissolve into the unknown. Flight 741's disappearance was not a violent event, nor was it marked by chaos or panic. There was no warning, no sudden shift in the aircraft's path, and no indication that anything was amiss. Instead, it was as if the plane simply slipped quietly out of existence, leaving behind only questions and a chilling silence. It was a gentle fading from existence, a vanishing so subtle that it almost seemed impossible. One moment, the plane was a steady presence on Honolulu's radar screens, a reassuring blip among the many that crossed the Pacific each day. The next, it was gone. The blip vanished, as if erased by an unseen hand. No distress signal, no mayday, no deviation, just silence. The radio remained eerily quiet, the expected check-ins never came. Controllers called out, their voices echoing into the void. Primary radar found nothing. Secondary radar, which relies on the plane's own transponder, was equally blank. It was as if the aircraft had been plucked from the sky, leaving not even a shadow behind. The search that followed was massive. Ships and planes scoured thousands of square miles, combing the vast Pacific for any sign of life or wreckage. They found nothing. No debris, no oil slick, no trace, not a single seat cushion, not a scrap of metal, not even a ripple to suggest where the plane had gone. The ocean offered no clues, swallowing the plane whole. It was as if the Pacific itself had conspired to erase every trace. Most air disasters leave wreckage and answers. This one left only a vanishing point. Families waited for news that never came, clinging to hope as days turned to weeks. No crash site, no black boxes, just a digital tombstone marking the start of an unending mystery. The official record is little more than a coordinate and a question. The absence is what makes this case so unsettling. It's not just the loss, but the void it leaves behind. A silence that echoes through every unanswered question. Flight 741's story ends not with a conclusion, but with a question mark in the sky. The final chapter is unwritten, the mystery unresolved. The vanishing point remains a fixed coordinate, a haunting reminder of what we cannot explain. In the end, it is not the violence of the event, but the silence and the mystery that linger, echoing across the endless ocean and into the unknown. Years later, the official investigation into Flight 741 is closed, but the mystery endures. The final report, exhaustive yet unsatisfying, offers no definitive cause. In aviation databases, the flight is not listed as crashed or destroyed, but as in air status unknown. As far as records go, the plane never landed, never crashed, it's still flying, a ghost in the system. For families, this status means no closure, no death certificates, only limbo. Status unknown is more than jargon, it's a summary of their lives since the plane vanished. The report is a monument to the limits of our knowledge. Despite all our technology, a modern airliner can simply disappear. Investigators ended not with answers, but with an admission of defeat. Theories fill the void where facts run out. The official story ends where the real mystery begins, a plane forever flying between the known and the unknown. When facts fail, imagination fills the gaps. One persistent theory, a government cover-up. Was the plane deliberately taken down or diverted by a powerful state actor? Some suggest a high-value target or sensitive cargo was on board, or that military technology disabled the plane's systems. The lack of debris and rumors of secret military exercises fuel these suspicions. For some, it's easier to believe in a hidden hand than to accept that a plane could simply vanish into nothing. Another theory points to catastrophic technical failure, a ghost in the machine. Perhaps a hidden flaw or a chain of mechanical and electrical faults brought the airliner down in seconds. Scenarios include explosive decompression, a cargo fire, or a software glitch that left the pilots helpless. The vast Pacific could have scattered any debris far from the search zone. The silence from the cockpit might mean the crew was overwhelmed, unable to send a distress call. This theory is plausible, relying on known science, but without wreckage, it remains unproven. The ghost in the machine is a faceless culprit, haunting the aviation industry. Even our most advanced machines can become tombs in an instant. When logic fails, some look to the unknown, interdimensional or extraterrestrial explanations. Did Flight 741 pass through a portal, vanishing into another dimension or time? The complete lack of evidence fuels this theory. No debris, no leaks, just nothing. Some believe the plane flew through a thin spot, in reality, relocated far beyond our reach. It's a theory born of wonder and fear, transforming tragedy into a strange kind of hope. Perhaps the passengers are not gone, but pioneers in an unknown land. It's not evidence, but a desire to find meaning in the void. Decades later, Flight 741 is more than a mystery. It's a modern myth. It blends the familiar with the alien, reminding us that the world is not as predictable as we think. The story resonates because it touches our deepest fears, the unknown, loss of control, and vanishing without a trace. In a world of constant tracking, the idea that a plane can simply disappear is deeply unsettling. The lack of answers allows the story to reflect our own beliefs, conspiracy science, or the mystical. Its adaptability gives the legend longevity. Ultimately, it's a story of 239 lives, hopes, and dreams, all lost in a moment. Families are left waiting, confronting the fragility of life and the limits of knowledge. The echo of Flight 741 is a meditation on loss and uncertainty. Some mysteries endure not to be solved, but to remind us of the power of unanswered questions. The story of Flight 741 leads us back to the sky, a realm of beauty and indifference. Despite our technology, some mysteries persist, reminding us of our limits. The disappearance suggests the sky is not just a medium for travel, but a place that can reclaim what we send into it. Perhaps some mysteries are meant to keep us asking questions, pushing the boundaries of imagination. Flight 741 ensures our sense of wonder never fades. It keeps us humble, reminding us we are visitors in a vast universe. In the end, we return to that final calm transmission. All is well, and then nothing. The space after those words is filled with our theories, fears, and hopes. The truth remains locked away. a ghost story for the modern age, lost in the unknowable sky. In the green wilds of Washington state, where the forests stretch for miles and the air is thick with the scent of pine and moss, there lies a place few remember. Tucked away from the highways and hidden by towering evergreens, it is a landscape shaped by time and memory. Here, a decommissioned airfield sits forgotten, its purpose lost to the decades. Once a hub of activity, it now lies silent, blending into the wild landscape that slowly reclaims it. The runways, once smooth and bustling with the wheels of landing planes, are now cracked and overgrown, weeds pushing through the concrete like nature's quiet rebellion. The control towers stand empty, their glass eyes watching over a silent expanse. Once these towers buzzed with voices and commands, but now only the wind whispers through broken windows. Once alive with the roar of jet engines and the bustle of travelers, now only the wind and wildlife move here. Deer cross the runways at dawn, and birds nest in the rafters where mechanics once worked. The main terminal is a dusty relic, its walls echoing with memories. Baggage carousels sit frozen in time, their belts unmoving, as if waiting for passengers who will never return. The hangars, vast and echoing, are cathedrals of silence, empty save for the occasional bird or deer. Sunlight streams through broken panels, illuminating dust motes that dance in the still air. On August 2nd, 2025, the airfield was as still as ever, bathed in moonlight, watched over by a bored two-person security team. Their footsteps echoed in the emptiness, a reminder of the life that once filled these grounds. Their job was routine, guard a place where nothing ever happened, where the only excitement was the occasional fox darting across the tarmac or a distant owl's call. But that night the silence was about to be shattered. A faint light flickered on the far end of the runway, a disturbance so subtle it could have been a trick of the eye. The air was cool, the scent of pine drifting in from the woods, mingling with the faint tang of old jet fuel that still lingered in the cracks of the pavement. No one expected anything unusual. The security monitors showed only static and empty corridors, the same as every night before. Yet, in the heart of this forgotten place, something impossible was about to unfold. Shadows moved where there should have been none, and the air seemed to hum with anticipation. The old airfield was about to reveal a secret it had kept for years. A secret waiting patiently beneath layers of dust and silence, ready to change everything. The security office was a bright island in the darkness, a small oasis of light and warmth surrounded by the vast, silent emptiness of the abandoned airport. The hum of fluorescent lights and the soft whir of old computers were the only sounds, blending with the distant echo of wind rattling the window panes. Inside, Marcus and Leo passed the time with coffee and idle talk, their conversation drifting from old stories to the mundane details of their shift. The hours stretched long, and the routine was comforting, almost hypnotic in its predictability. Their monitors showed only empty tarmacs and silent hangars, the screens flickering with static from time to time. Nothing ever happened here anymore. The airport had been out of use for years, and the only visitors were the occasional stray cat or drifting tumbleweed. Suddenly, an unfamiliar electronic ping broke the monotony, a sharp, urgent sound that cut through the quiet. A red light flashed on an old emergency aviation receiver, a relic from busier days that usually sat gathering dust in the corner. The signal was unmistakable, an emergency locator beacon, the kind triggered only in the event of a crash or disaster. It was a sound neither man had ever heard in person, only in training videos and stories from the past. But no planes had flown here in years. The runways were cracked and overgrown, the control tower silent and the hangars locked tight. There was no reason for any beacon to be active. The signal wasn't coming from the sky, as one might expect, but from somewhere inside the airfield itself, somewhere close, almost impossibly so. Marcus traced it to Hangar 7, a building sealed and empty for over a decade. Its doors were rusted shut, its windows clouded with dust and time. The implications were impossible to ignore. For a beacon to activate, there had to be an aircraft, or at least a powered part of one, inside that hangar. But the records showed nothing had been stored there for years. Leo stared at the monitor, his mind racing through possible explanations, each more unlikely than the last. Was it a prank, a malfunction, or something stranger, something that defied logic and reason? The insistent ping filled the office, growing louder in their minds, with every passing second demanding a response neither man felt ready to give. Routine was gone. Mystery had arrived. With a shared glance, Marcus and Leo knew they had to investigate, no matter how much their instincts screamed to ignore it. The night had turned from dull to deeply unsettling, and as they stepped into the shadows, the unknown awaited them in the silence beyond the door. Without hesitation, Marcus and Leo set out in their security vehicle, headlights slicing through the darkness. The road to Hangar 7 was rough, lined with rusted equipment and abandoned sheds. The full moon cast eerie shadows as they drove deeper into the neglected side of the airfield. The emergency ping grew louder on their handheld device, guiding them toward the source. Hangar 7 loomed ahead, a massive, rust-streaked structure, its doors sealed tight. No sign of entry, no light, only the wind and the relentless beacon. They parked, cut the engine and stepped into the silence, dwarfed by the hangar's size. The receiver's light confirmed it. The signal was coming from inside. They stood at the edge of an impossibility, about to open a door closed for years. The air felt charged, as if the night itself was holding its breath. Every instinct told them to turn back, but curiosity pulled them forward. They prepared to enter the unknown. The main doors were sealed, but Marcus remembered a side service door. With bolt cutters, they snapped the corroded lock and slipped inside. Darkness swallowed them, their flashlights barely pierced the vast space. The air was stale, tinged with oil and an odd, sterile scent, like a modern airliner. Their lights revealed only empty concrete, no aircraft, no wreckage, yet the emergency signal pulsed strong. They moved cautiously, footsteps echoing in the cavernous void. At the center, the receiver insisted they were at the source. Leo suggested using the infrared camera, standard for security sweeps. He aimed it at the center of the hangar, expecting nothing. But the screen showed something that made him freeze. Where their eyes saw emptiness, the camera revealed the impossible. Leo's breath caught. Marcus took the camera, his hands trembling. They were staring at a mystery technology couldn't explain. The infrared camera displayed a crowd of human-shaped heat signatures, hundreds arranged in neat rows like airplane seats. The layout was unmistakable, a full passenger cabin complete with aisles and cockpit. Over 200 figures, perfectly still, filled the invisible plane. Marcus counted 26 rows, 343 across, 2 brighter signatures at the front, pilots. 213 in total. The hangar was empty to the naked eye, but the camera showed a ghostly flight frozen in time. The 2 guards stood in stunned silence, searching for logic and finding none. They were trained for intruders, not for this. No manual covered a spectral airplane in a locked, empty hangar. The air felt colder, heavier. They were not alone. The silence pressed in, thick with dread. The emergency beacon's ping was now a heartbeat in the dark. They realized they were witnesses to something beyond explanation. The hangar had become a portal to the impossible. They could only watch, powerless. The most disturbing part was the stillness. The heat signatures were frozen, upright, facing forward, no movement, no breath. Leo stepped forward, waving his hand through a glowing shape. He felt only cold air. On the camera, his own heat signature passed through the ghostly figures, untouched. They tried shouting, throwing a stone, nothing changed. The silent cabin remained, indifferent to their presence. The phenomenon was self-contained, a drama playing out in another dimension. Dread replaced curiosity. They were intruders in a space that felt sacred or cursed. The urge to flee grew overwhelming. The air crackled with unseen energy. They wanted nothing more than to escape the impossible scene. Suddenly, everything changed. The infrared screen, once filled with ghostly passengers, went blank. The emergency beacon fell silent. The hangar's silence returned, but now it was the silence of absence. The shock of disappearance was greater than the shock of appearance. They swept the camera. Nothing remained, not a trace of heat. The floor was cold, the air still. The ghost cabin had vanished as if it never existed. Only the broken lock and their memories proved anything had happened. Without a word, they left, stepping into the cool night air. The hangar loomed behind them, darker and more mysterious than ever. The mystery hadn't been solved, it had simply ended. They carried an impossible story and a deep, lingering chill. The official report called it a malfunction, a ghost signal, nothing more. Marcus and Leo kept the truth to themselves. No evidence remained. Theories abounded: a technical glitch, electromagnetic interference, a perfect storm of rare conditions. But the precision of the image, the exact cabin layout, the number of figures defied coincidence. Some suggested a residual haunting, a place memory replaying a forgotten tragedy. Others whispered of the paranormal, a spectral airplane briefly manifesting in our world. For Marcus and Leo, the experience felt ancient, intelligent, and real. The hangar had shown them something beyond science or reason. They were left with questions and a secret they would never forget. The ghost cabin became their private enigma. The ghost cabin isn't alone in aviation's history of mysteries. Throughout the decades, the world of flight has been haunted by stories that defy logic and explanation. Each era brings its own legends, some lost to time, others whispered in the shadows of hangars and control towers. From the disappearance of Amelia Earhart over the Pacific to the baffling vanishing of Malaysia Airlines Flight 370, the skies have swallowed planes without a trace. These events have left families, investigators, and the world searching for answers that never seem to come. Stories of ghost flights, phantom aircraft appearing on radar only to vanish moments later, are whispered among pilots and air traffic controllers. These tales, sometimes dismissed as technical glitches, linger in the minds of those who witnessed them. After the tragic crash of Flight 401, crew members reported seeing the ghosts of lost colleagues on other planes. These chilling encounters were so frequent that they became part of airline lore, a reminder that the past can sometimes reach into the present. Yet, Hangar 7's event stands apart. A grounded, prolonged, multi-instrument apparition that defies every rational explanation. Unlike fleeting sightings, this was a phenomenon that unfolded over hours, witnessed by multiple people and devices. An emergency beacon flashing in the darkness, a full cabin of invisible passengers, and a sudden disappearance. Here, modern technology met the supernatural in a way that left even the most skeptical investigators unsettled. The hangar remains, silent and unchanged to the casual observer. But for those who know the story, it's a place forever altered, a site where reality and the unknown briefly collided. It's no longer just an empty building, it's a place of questions and uneasy wonder. What really happened that night, and could it happen again? Was it a simple glitch, a lingering echo from the past, or something far stranger, a tear in reality itself, letting something through that we cannot explain? The mystery endures, a chilling reminder that some things remain beyond our understanding, no matter how advanced our technology becomes. The skies and the places we leave behind still hold secrets waiting for the next chapter to unfold. Hangar 7 waits, its secret sealed in silence, its story echoing in the minds of those who dare to remember. The ghost cabin's story is not over. The Pacific Ocean is a world unto itself, vast and mysterious, stretching beyond the limits of human sight and imagination. Its surface, calm and endless, hides secrets that have confounded explorers and sailors for centuries. Beneath the gentle waves lies a realm untouched by light, a place where the rules of nature seem to bend and twist. For those who cross its expanse, the ocean is both a passage and a barrier, a silent witness to countless journeys, triumphs and tragedies. It is a place that cares little for human ambition, a force of nature that remains indifferent to our hopes, dreams and fears. The horizon stretches on, unbroken, as if daring anyone to challenge its dominion. On a clear moonlit night, Flight 741, a marvel of modern engineering and human ingenuity, soared high above this vastness. Inside, passengers relaxed, some gazing out at the endless darkness, others lost in thought or sleep, all blissfully unaware that their journey was about to take a turn into the unknown. The crew, seasoned and confident, trusted in their instruments and training, never suspecting that the ordinary would soon become extraordinary. The first sign of trouble was almost imperceptible, a faint, crackling transmission at Oakland Oceanic Air Traffic Control. Controllers, accustomed to routine check-ins and steady voices, paused as something unusual filtered through their headsets. The pilot's voice, typically calm and measured, now carried a note of unease. He described lights outside the aircraft, lights that moved with impossible speed, shifting through colors that defied description. They darted and danced across the sky, weaving patterns that no known aircraft or natural phenomenon could explain. The message was fragmented, broken by static and interference. Words faded in and out, painting a surreal picture that left controllers straining to understand. Then abruptly the transmission ended. It was the last anyone would ever hear from Flight 741. Moments later, the aircraft vanished from the sky. There was no crash, no sudden deviation from its course, just a sudden, inexplicable absence. One moment it was there, the next it was gone, as if erased from existence. On radar, the blip representing over 200 souls simply ceased to exist. The controllers watched in disbelief as the steady signal flickered, then disappeared entirely, leaving only an empty screen and a growing sense of dread. One moment, a steady presence. The next, nothing but silence and confusion. The disappearance was instantaneous, with no warning or explanation. The void left behind was absolute, as if the plane had been plucked from reality itself. The night sky, once alive with the hum of engines, was now eerily quiet, the stars shining indifferently above. Silence followed, heavier than any storm, settling over the control room and the ocean alike. It was a silence that spoke of loss, of questions without answers. There was no warning, no distress call, no sign of struggle or malfunction. The disappearance defied every protocol, every expectation. The transponder, designed to broadcast the plane's identity and altitude, went silent at the exact moment the plane vanished. All electronic traces of Flight 741 ceased, as if the aircraft had never existed. Controllers were left baffled and shaken. An aircraft of this size, with so many lives aboard, does not simply vanish. Procedures were followed, calls were made, but no answers came. Search and rescue teams scoured the area, combing the vast ocean for any sign of wreckage or survivors. But there was nothing, no trace, no debris, no final call for help. Flight 741 left behind only a chilling question mark over the endless Pacific. A mystery that endures, echoing across the waves and into the night, a voice from the void that may never be answered. In the control tower, the night shift had just settled into its familiar rhythm. The hum of electronics, the soft glow of radar screens, and the quiet murmur of controllers exchanging updates filled the room. Outside, the world was dark and still, but inside, every second was accounted for, every blip on the screen a life in motion. The initial response was calm professionalism. These were seasoned experts, trained to handle the unexpected with steady hands and clear minds. A momentary loss of signal wasn't unheard of. Technical glitches happened. Sometimes a blip would vanish for a heartbeat, only to return as if nothing had happened. The team followed protocol, expecting the blip to reappear and the crew to check in. They double-checked their logs, reviewed the flight's last known position, and waited for the familiar voice of the crew to break the silence. They called out, "Oceanic 741 Oakland, do you copy?" again and again. Only silence answered. The radio hissed with static, but no voice came through. Equipment checks revealed no faults on the ground. Technicians moved swiftly, scanning every panel and connection, searching for any sign of malfunction. All systems were green. The problem was with the aircraft, not the tower. The realization sent a ripple of unease through the room. As minutes passed, tension grew. The controllers exchanged worried glances, their calm exterior masking a growing sense of dread. Multiple redundant systems had failed at once, an improbable scenario. The silence became ominous, pressing in on the team as they realized this was no ordinary technical hiccup. Hope for a simple explanation faded. The usual troubleshooting steps led nowhere. Each unanswered call, each empty screen deepened the mystery. The plane was not just silent, it was invisible. No trace, no echo, nothing to suggest it had ever been there at all. Even primary radar, which detects physical objects, showed nothing. It was as if the aircraft had been erased from existence in a single, inexplicable moment. This was more than a transponder failure. The aircraft itself was undetectable. The controllers reviewed every possible scenario, but none fit what they were seeing. The situation escalated from technical glitch to crisis. Emergency protocols were initiated, and superiors were alerted. The gravity of the situation was clear. Something unprecedented was unfolding. Beneath the procedural calm, a chilling question formed. How can a Boeing 777 simply disappear? The thought lingered, unspoken but heavy in the air. The tower was left with no answers, only the weight of the unknown. In that silent room, surrounded by technology and protocol, the controllers faced a mystery that defied everything they knew about flight, safety, and the limits of possibility. The search for contact became desperate. In the control tower, tension thickened the air as every second ticked by. Controllers leaned forward, eyes darting between radar screens and communication panels, hoping for any sign, a blip, a voice, a flicker of hope. The silence was deafening, broken only by the soft hum of electronics and the occasional anxious exchange between colleagues. Each failed attempt to reach the missing flight only deepened the sense of dread. Controllers broadcast on all frequencies, including the International Emergency Channel. Flight 741 acknowledged. Their voices, usually calm and measured, now carried a note of urgency. They repeated the call again and again, hoping that somehow the crew would respond. Their words vanished into a void. The radio waves traveled out into the night, but there was no echo. No sign that anyone was listening on the other end. No reply. Not even static. The usual background hiss of the radio was gone, replaced by a chilling, unnatural quiet. It was as if the aircraft had simply ceased to exist. Digital messages via ACARs, meant to track technical data, also went unanswered. The system, designed to provide a digital lifeline between plane and ground, offered no clues. Controllers sent message after message, but the screen remained blank, the silence unbroken. The data stream from Flight 741 stopped the moment it vanished from radar. One instant the aircraft was a glowing dot on the screen, but next it was gone, as if erased by an unseen hand. The plane's digital heartbeat had ceased. All the sophisticated electronics designed to keep the aircraft connected to the world below had fallen silent in unison. Protocol dictated reaching out to neighboring control centers in Japan and Hawaii. Calls were made, voices tense as controllers coordinated across borders, hoping another radar, another radio might have picked up the missing flight. They too called out, but the silence was absolute. No one, anywhere, had heard from Flight 741. The vast network of global aviation, usually so reliable, had failed to provide even a whisper of information. No one could reach the missing flight. Frustration and disbelief grew as the minutes stretched into hours, and the reality of the situation began to sink in. In most incidents, there's a final transmission or an emergency beacon. Even in disaster, there is usually a last desperate attempt to communicate. A mayday, a squawk of the transponder, a burst from the emergency locator transmitter. These beacons activate on impact, guiding search teams. Helicopters and rescue crews scan the skies and seas for the faintest signal, hoping to home in on survivors or wreckage. But from Flight 741 there was nothing. No mayday, no distress, no signal. The usual lifelines, the systems designed to cry out for help, remained silent. The aircraft and all aboard had slipped behind a curtain of static. It was as if the plane had crossed an invisible threshold, vanishing not just from radar, but from reality itself. The world was left with no clue to its fate. Families waited, investigators puzzled over the data, and the aviation community was left to wonder, how could a modern airliner simply disappear, leaving behind only echoes in the static? With ground contact lost, controllers turned to other aircraft nearby. Pilots were diverted to fly over the last known position of Flight 741. These professionals became the first search party in the sky. They scanned the ocean for wreckage, fire, or emergency lights. Their radar and radios found nothing. Reports from these flights were unanimous. The sea below was empty, the sky clear. No debris, no oil slick, no sign of a crash. An aircraft of this size does not simply vanish without a trace. Yet 4 different crews saw only a calm sea and an empty sky. It was as if Flight 741 had been erased from existence. At dawn, the search escalated into one of the largest operations in aviation history. Military and civilian assets from several nations converged on the area. Ships with sonar listened for the black box beacons, while patrol aircraft scanned the waves and ocean floor. The search grid expanded daily, racing against time and the vastness of the Pacific. The region was remote, with deep trenches and unpredictable currents. Despite advanced technology and exhaustive effort, nothing was found. No wreckage, no life vests, not even a sheen of jet fuel. The sonar ships heard only the natural sounds of the deep. The search was meticulous and relentless, but ultimately fruitless. The Pacific guarded its secret. Months passed, and the search was suspended after millions of square miles were scoured. No evidence, no closure. Flight 741 had vanished more completely than any airliner in history. Catastrophic accidents always leave traces, but not this time. The lack of debris made an underwater search for the black boxes impossible. The ocean floor was simply too vast. For families, the absence of answers was agonizing. Experts were baffled. A Boeing 777 is built to withstand immense stress. Even a bomb or fire would leave some trace. The total lack of evidence became the haunting core of the mystery. The ocean had taken something away without a trace. The search for Flight 741 became a search for meaning. The Pacific offered only silence. With no wreckage and no leads, the official investigation stalled. The final report detailed the last known position, the pilot's strange message, and the fruitless search. The aircraft was in perfect working order, the weather clear, the crew experienced. All common causes were ruled out. The official conclusion presumed lost at sea, cause unknown. The file remains open, a story without an ending. The record is a monument to absence, a testament to unanswered questions. The black boxes never found hold secrets locked in the Pacific's depths. The investigation reached its limits. Flight 741 became a modern myth, a reminder of how even the most advanced technology can simply vanish. In the absence of evidence, theories flourished. Some suggest a sudden catastrophic event, structural failure or explosion, yet even these should leave debris. Others propose a sophisticated hijacking, but no group claimed responsibility and no motive was found. Pilot suicide was considered, but the crew's records and the strange final transmission don't fit. The pilot's mention of strange lights inspired speculation about unidentified aerial phenomena. This idea, dismissed by officials, persists in the public imagination. All theories remain just that, stories to fill the void. Each has holes that only evidence could fill. The mystery endures because it resists explanation. The silence of Flight 741 is answered only by human speculation. Years later, Flight 741 exists as a ghost in the world's memory. For families, it's an unhealed wound. For aviation, a humbling reminder of our limits. The incident led to new tracking regulations, but the mystery remains. The flight number was retired, yet its story is retold in documentaries and conversations. The fundamental questions linger. Where did it go? What were the lights? How could a massive plane vanish without a trace? The absence of evidence means we may never know. The Pacific keeps its secret. The legacy of Flight 741 is silence, radio, ocean, and official report. It challenges our belief that everything can be known. Some journeys have no end, and some stories remain. The arrivals hall at Tokyo's Narita airport buzzed with anticipation, a symphony of nervous energy and hope. Families clutched bouquets and handmade signs, their eyes scanning the crowd for a familiar face. Children pressed their noses to the glass, peering out with wide-eyed excitement, waiting for the first glimpse of loved ones returning on Flight 741 from Honolulu. The air was thick with expectation, every second stretching as the crowd grew. The arrivals board flickered, delayed. At first no one worried. Delays were routine, a minor inconvenience in the grand scheme of travel. People exchanged knowing glances, shrugged, and settled in for what they assumed would be a short wait. After all, flights ran late all the time. But as minutes stretched into an hour, the mood shifted. Patience gave way to unease. Smiles faded, replaced by furrowed brows and whispered conversations. The once lively chatter dulled, replaced by the soft hum of worry. Anxious glances darted toward the silent board, searching for any sign of change, any update that might bring relief. An old woman smoothed her dress with trembling hands, her eyes never leaving the arrivals screen. A young man paced back and forth, phone pressed to his ear, desperate for news that never came. Airport staff moved among the crowd, offering polite reassurances, but their forced smiles and darting eyes betrayed their own uncertainty. The tension in the air was palpable, growing heavier with every passing minute. The hope in the hall slowly chilled into dread. Small groups formed, strangers drawn together by a shared silent fear. People clung to rumors, asking, "Have you heard anything?" Always met with a worried shake of the head or a helpless shrug. The sense of community was tinged with desperation, as if unity might somehow conjure answers from the silence. The flight wasn't circling, wasn't diverted, it was just late. But this lateness felt different, unsettling in a way no one could quite explain. Children, sensing the tension, clung to their parents, their excitement fading into confusion. Flowers, once vibrant, began to wilt in nervous hands. Welcome signs drooped, their cheerful colours now a stark contrast to the growing anxiety. The gate, meant for joyful reunions, became a place of anxious vigil. The atmosphere thickened with every passing minute, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on everyone. The laughter and anticipation that once filled the hall were replaced by silence and the sound of restless footsteps. Then suddenly, the arrivals board changed, missing. The words seemed to echo through the hall, freezing everyone in place. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd, disbelief and fear mingling in the air. The reality of the situation began to sink in, and the question started to swirl. The question hung in the air, heavy and unspoken. How can a plane just disappear? Families who had been so full of hope now stood at the edge of a mystery, their faces etched with confusion and fear. The silence was deafening, broken only by the occasional sob or whispered prayer. The airport, once alive with anticipation, became a place of waiting and worry. The gate was no longer a threshold to reunion, but to uncertainty, a barrier between the known and the unknown. Every moment felt suspended, as if time itself was holding its breath. It was the beginning of a story no one wanted to tell, a chapter written in fear and unanswered questions. And as the hours dragged on, one thing became painfully clear. No one had any answers. In the control tower, tension mounted as the night shift pressed on. The hum of electronics and the soft glow of monitors were the only constants in a world built on routine and precision. Suddenly, Flight 741 vanished from radar. Its signal blinking out in an instant. One moment, a green dot glided steadily across the vast Pacific, a reassuring sign of normalcy. The next, it was gone. No warning, no deviation, just erased from existence. The flight path ended as if someone had cut a thread. Controllers called out, "Flight 741! Do you read?" But only silence answered. The radio waves empty. No static, no distress call, just a chilling void where communication should have been. The absence of even a crackle was unnerving. This wasn't a crash or a hijacking. It was an absence, a hole in the fabric of the night. Equipment checks began immediately. Technicians scoured every system, searching for a glitch or malfunction. But everything worked, except the plane was gone. Officials pored over flight data, maintenance logs, and weather reports. All normal. No sign of trouble, no hint of sabotage or error. The Boeing 777 was a marvel of engineering, renowned for its reliability. The weather was clear, the crew experienced and well-rested. There was no logical reason for a modern jet to vanish without a trace. Aviation experts gathered, searching for answers that didn't exist. Panic crept in where procedure failed. The usual checklists and protocols offered no comfort. The controllers, trained for disaster, faced something worse, nothingness. They were left with questions, not answers. The hours dragged on, and the world's most advanced systems offered no answers. The digital world map remained empty, the radar silent. The plane had simply ceased to exist in the eyes of technology. It was as if Flight 741 had never been there at all. Authorities scrambled, but the facts remained. No crash, no signal, no explanation. The disappearance was total, and the implications were staggering. The search for Flight 741 began not with a mayday, but with a question mark. Teams mobilized but had no starting point. It was a ghost on the radar, a digital phantom that defied logic and left experts baffled. The void it left behind was more terrifying than any wreckage. Families waited, desperate for news, clinging to hope as hours turned to days. The world's eyes turned to the Pacific, searching for a plane that had slipped beyond reach. Search planes and ships combed the endless blue, finding only emptiness. The mystery deepened with every unanswered call. Each attempt to reach the crew was met with silence, amplifying the sense of helplessness. The controllers could only watch the empty screen. The silence was absolute. Flight 741 had vanished, leaving behind only questions and fear. And the world was left in the dark, united in confusion and dread, as the mystery of Flight 741 began to unfold. As night fell, the arrivals board's missing sign shattered hope. Grief erupted. Sobs echoed, people collapsed, comforted only by strangers. Families were ushered into a private room, away from cameras, united in sorrow. Counselors and coffee offered little solace against the weight of uncertainty. Every door opening brought a flicker of hope, quickly extinguished by more silence. The hours crawled by, each tick a reminder of absence. The question haunted everyone. How does a plane just disappear? The families were trapped in limbo, no closure, no answers. Just waiting. Memories of last goodbyes replayed endlessly, searching for meaning. Dawn brought no relief, only more questions. For the world, it was a headline. For the families, a nightmare with no escape. Flight 741 was gone, and so was a piece of everyone left behind. The search for Flight 741 became a massive, urgent operation, mobilizing resources from around the globe. Within hours, international teams assembled, united by a single goal: to find any sign of the missing plane. Ships and planes from many nations scoured the vast Pacific, but the ocean offered only silence. The search grid stretched for thousands of miles, each vessel and aircraft methodically covering their assigned sectors. Spotters scanned endless blue, searching for debris. Nothing. Every glint on the water brought a surge of hope, only to be dashed by the realization it was just sunlight or drifting seaweed. Sophisticated sonar pinged the depths, hoping for a signal from the black boxes. Silence. The technology was advanced, but the ocean's depths swallowed every sound, every echo. Satellites searched from space but found no trace. Even from above, the Pacific revealed nothing, its surface unbroken and undisturbed. The search area was immense, the task overwhelming. Maps filled with grids and coordinates, but the ocean remained unchanged, indifferent to human effort. Days passed, hope faded, and the ocean kept its secrets. Each sunset brought a new wave of uncertainty as families and rescuers waited for news that never came. Crews worked grueling shifts, driven by duty and desperation. Fatigue set in, but the determination to find answers kept them going night after night. No wreckage, no oil slick, no evidence, just a blank, indifferent sea. The ocean gave nothing back, not even a clue. The Pacific became a symbol of the mystery, vast, deep, impenetrable. Its endless horizon seemed to swallow all hope, leaving only questions. The world watched, breath held, as each day ended with the same report: nothing found. Families clung to hope, but the silence grew heavier with every passing hour. It was as if Flight 741 had never existed. The airport, once bustling with anticipation, now stood eerily quiet, haunted by absence. The ocean's silence was absolute, its vastness a reminder of how small we are against nature's mysteries. Weeks passed, and the search shifted to the ocean's depths. Deep-sea submersibles and pinger locators scoured the seabed, mapping underwater mountains and canyons. Experts debated search zones, analyzing incomplete data and ocean currents. The search became a hunt for a needle in multiple haystacks, all miles underwater. Live feeds showed only haunting emptiness, no glint of metal, no sign of a plane. The black boxes, designed to emit signals for 30 days, remained silent. The most advanced technology and brightest minds found nothing. The ocean floor was undisturbed, as if the plane had never been there. The search for Flight 741 became a search for shadows. The mystery only deepened. With no evidence, theories filled the void. Online sleuths and experts debated catastrophic failure, hijacking, pilot error, even UFOs. Intelligence agencies found no suspicious passengers or crew. Outlandish ideas, secret weapons, alien abduction spread as people grasped for answers. For families, these theories brought little comfort, only more pain. The disappearance shattered faith in technology and certainty. Flight 741's vanishing became a symbol of how little we truly know. Months later, the official investigation ended with no answers. The final report was thick with data, but its conclusion was stark. They did not know what happened. Even the US Air Force, with its powerful satellites and radars, saw nothing. No explosion, no crash, no deviation. The world's most advanced systems admitted defeat. The lack of explanation was the most unsettling outcome. Without a cause, there was no lesson, no reassurance. Aviation safety depends on learning from tragedy, but what can be learned from a vanishing? The official report confirmed the story had no end. The mystery remained. Years have passed, but for the families, time has not healed the wound. Every anniversary they gather, light candles and remember. They formed a community bound by loss and unanswered questions. Petitions and pleas for new searches go unheard. The trail is cold. Flight 741 has become modern folklore, a ghost story, a cautionary tale. Its name is now shorthand for the inexplicable. The disappearance revealed the limits of our technology and understanding. The question mark remains haunting our modern age. The story of Flight 741 ends where it began, with a question. The plane reached a point over the Pacific and simply ceased to exist. It didn't crash, it vanished, leaving no wreckage, no narrative, just a void. The absence of evidence is the maddening heart of the mystery. The legacy of Flight 741 is a lingering sense of the unknowable. Search teams, investigators, and families found only silence. The journey has no final destination we can see. Perhaps the plane lies in an unexplored trench, or perhaps it's simply gone. The story isn't about finding an answer, it's about living with the question. Flight 740. It began quietly, as the most profound mysteries often do. The night was calm, the air still, and the world seemed to be in a deep slumber. The world was still shrouded in the deep, silent hours of the pre-dawn. The streets were empty, and the only sound was the occasional rustle of leaves in the gentle breeze. In homes across continents, families of Flight 303's missing passengers slept uneasily. Their dreams were haunted by the unknown fate of their loved ones. The official search had ended, hope had faded, and the world moved on, except for those left behind. They clung to the faintest glimmer of hope, refusing to accept the finality of the loss. Then, at precisely 3:03 a.m., a phone rang. The sound pierced the silence of the night, startling the household. A parent answered, expecting nothing but silence. Their heart raced as they lifted the receiver, bracing for the worst. Instead, a child's whisper, "Mom, we're still flying." The line went dead. The words echoed in the parent's mind, a chilling message that defied logic. At first it was dismissed, a dream, a wrong number, a cruel prank. But the voice was unmistakable, and the message was too specific to ignore. But the voice lingered, unsettling and persistent. It gnawed at the edges of their consciousness, refusing to be forgotten. The next night, another call, another family, the same message. The pattern was emerging, and it was impossible to ignore. The pattern repeated, always at 3:03 a.m., always the same haunting words. The consistency was eerie, and the implications were terrifying. The calls were no longer isolated incidents. They were a phenomenon, spreading fear and confusion among the families. Families began to realize they were part of something inexplicable. They reached out to each other, seeking solace and answers. The message was impossible, yet undeniable. It defied all logic and reason, but it was happening. Each call deepened the mystery, binding the families together in shared uncertainty. They formed a community, united by their shared experience. The world had moved on, but for these families, time stood still. They were trapped in a cycle of hope and despair, unable to move forward. The calls became a chilling phenomenon, impossible to ignore. They were a reminder of the unresolved mystery, a beacon of hope and fear. It was the beginning of a mystery that would upend everything they thought they knew. The calls were a doorway to the unknown, and the families were about to step through. Shock and confusion gripped each household. The news had already shattered their worlds, but now something even stranger was happening. In the quiet aftermath of loss, the phone would ring, and a familiar voice, one they thought they'd never hear again, would echo through the static. It was as if the past refused to let go, pulling them back into a storm of emotions. The calls challenged the finality of their loss, igniting a fragile hope. For a moment, grief was replaced by disbelief, and then by a desperate longing. Could it really be them? Was there a chance, however slim, that their loved ones were reaching out from somewhere beyond, but hope was shadowed by fear? Was this a cruel hoax? The uncertainty gnawed at them, making every moment feel like a test of faith. Some clung to the possibility of a miracle, while others braced themselves for more heartbreak. Paranoia grew. Who could do this? Why? The idea that someone might be playing with their pain was almost too much to bear. Every shadow seemed suspicious, every unknown number a potential threat. As stories spread online, families discovered they weren't alone. Across the city and even across the country, others were experiencing the same chilling phenomenon. The internet became a lifeline, a place to share their stories and search for answers. Forums filled with identical accounts. 3:03 a.m., a child's voice, the same message. The details matched too closely to be coincidence. Strangers became confidants, united by the eerie timing and the haunting words that echoed through their phones. This shared experience united them. Grief, once isolating, now became a bond. They found comfort in each other's presence, realizing that together they could face the unknown. They compared notes, documented every call, and mapped the pattern. Each detail, no matter how small, was carefully recorded. They began to see connections, dates, times, even the words spoken, forming a puzzle that demanded to be solved. The calls weren't random, they followed the passenger list. The realization sent chills down their spines. Someone or something was reaching out to them in a way that defied explanation. The phenomenon felt deliberate, not accidental. It was as if an invisible hand was guiding the events, forcing the families to confront a mystery that grew deeper with every passing day. Grief transformed into a collective quest for answers. The families became investigators, piecing together clues and refusing to accept the unknown. The families demanded a formal investigation. They spoke out, their voices growing louder as they called for the truth. The world began to take notice. Their unity gave them strength and urgency. Together they were more than just victims, they were a movement, determined to uncover what really happened. The impossible calls had turned private pain into a public mystery. News outlets picked up the story, and soon the world was watching, waiting for answers. Together they refused to let the world forget. Their loved ones' memories became a rallying cry, a reason to keep searching no matter how strange the path ahead. The search for truth had begun. Every clue, every testimony brought them closer to understanding the impossible. The families were no longer isolated. They were a force, united by loss, hope, and the determination to uncover the truth behind the calls that changed everything. Under mounting pressure from desperate families and an insistent media, authorities had no choice but to launch a full-scale investigation. The air was thick with tension and uncertainty, as every official knew the world was watching, waiting for answers. The families, exhausted and anxious, demanded action, while journalists crowded outside the police station, broadcasting every development to a captivated public. The sense of urgency was palpable. This was no ordinary case, and everyone involved could feel it. To unravel the mystery, national agencies and top telecom experts were brought together, pooling their resources and expertise. They pored over every detail, determined to trace the origin of the baffling calls. The control room buzzed with activity as specialists from different fields collaborated, sharing theories and scrutinizing evidence late into the night. The investigation quickly confirmed the calls were real, each one precisely logged at 3:03 a.m., lasting only a handful of seconds. The timing was eerily consistent, as if following a pattern only the sender understood. Investigators replayed the data over and over, searching for any clue hidden in those brief, mysterious moments. But when they tried to trace the source, they hit a wall. The data led only to a jumble of impossible digits, numbers that made no sense, as if the calls had come from nowhere and everywhere at once. The more they analyzed, the more the evidence seemed to dissolve into confusion, leaving even the most seasoned experts baffled. It was as if the calls had materialized out of thin air, leaving behind no digital footprint, no traceable path. The server logs were empty, the network records blank. Every digital trail vanished just as quickly as it appeared, deepening the sense of unease among the investigators. Teams of engineers and cybersecurity experts scoured the systems for any sign of hacking or breach. They ran diagnostics, checked for malware, and reviewed every possible vulnerability. But their search turned up nothing. No evidence of tampering, no sign of intrusion. The mystery only grew, as the experts were forced to admit they were dealing with something entirely unprecedented. Advanced digital forensics tools were deployed, capturing only fragmentary metadata, bits and pieces that hinted at a larger puzzle. The data was incomplete, as if something was deliberately obscuring the full picture, leaving investigators with more questions than answers. The only constant in the chaos was a series of faint GPS markers barely visible on the digital map. These elusive signals were the only thread connecting the calls, and investigators clung to them, hoping they might lead to a breakthrough. When the data was triangulated, the results were astonishing. The signal didn't point to any location on the ground, but instead hovered in the sky, directly above the last known flight path. It was as if the calls were coming from somewhere high above, defying all conventional logic. The calls became digital ghosts, their signals floating thousands of feet above the vast Pacific Ocean. The investigators stared at the data in disbelief, realizing they were chasing something that existed beyond the boundaries of normal technology. With every new discovery, the investigation uncovered a chilling new layer. The evidence was unsettling, and the team began to wonder if they were dealing with something far stranger than a simple technical anomaly. The ghost in the machine was no longer just a metaphor. It seemed to have taken to the sky, haunting the very airspace where the flight had vanished. The boundaries between technology and the unknown were blurring, leaving everyone unsettled. The mystery deepened with every passing hour, defying all logic and challenging the investigators' understanding of reality. The evidence was overwhelming, yet nothing made sense. The team was left with more questions than answers, and a growing sense that they were on the edge of something truly extraordinary. As dawn broke over the ocean, the search for answers had only just begun. The investigators pressed on, determined to uncover the truth, no matter how impossible it seemed. The GPS data changed everything. The signal moved nightly, tracing Flight 303's intended path, slowly, impossibly, across the Pacific. No known device could transmit from such altitude nor follow such a path. No weather balloon, drone, or aircraft was detected. Simulations ruled out surviving plane electronics. The signal's deliberate journey became a nightly vigil for families and investigators. Each call was a whisper from an unreachable place, defying the laws of physics. The world watched powerless as the mystery drifted across the sky. Despite the evidence, many clung to the hoax theory. Investigators profiled suspects, scoured backgrounds, and searched the dark web. The technical sophistication required was staggering, far beyond any known prank. The message itself was gentle, not taunting. "Mom, we're still flying." No one claimed responsibility, no ransom was demanded, every lead went cold. The calls continued, indifferent to the investigation. The lack of a human fingerprint was chilling. It was a crime without a criminal, a mystery without a motive. The families were left with only questions and heartbreak. The calls were relentless, their origin inhuman. The world was forced to confront the possibility that this was something else entirely. The mystery refused to yield. With no answers, the public turned to the supernatural. Some saw the calls as messages from lost souls, a final connection from beyond. The child's voice became a symbol of innocence, the phrase a metaphor for an unfinished journey. Paranormal experts offered theories, apparitions, time slips, even dimensional portals. Skeptics dismissed these ideas as grief-driven fantasies, yet with no scientific explanation, the supernatural became the only story that fit. The mystery had pushed belief to its limits. Scientists searched for a rational explanation. Some proposed a data echo, fragments of the plane's last transmissions trapped in a network loop. Others imagined airborne debris reflecting signals, creating phantom calls. But none of these theories explained the specificity, the moving signal, or the targeted calls. Each idea solved one piece, but left the rest unexplained. The event defied every known model. The calls remained a stark anomaly, science's unsolvable riddle. As months passed, the calls faded. The signal reached its destination, then vanished. The silence was as haunting as the whispers. For families, the experience was life-altering. Grief suspended, closure denied. Some found comfort in the mystery, others were tormented by it. The ordeal forged bonds between families, but isolated them from the world. They became keepers of a secret no one else could understand. Their lives were forever changed by the impossible. The calls left a scar and a legend. Today, the story of Flight 303 remains unsolved. The official report admits only bafflement. The plane was never found, the calls never explained. The event humbled experts, inspiring new research and cautionary tales. For the public, it became a modern myth, technology's ghost story, a whisper from the unknown. For the families, it was a lived reality, a moment when the world's rules broke. The phrase, "Mum, we're still flying," echoes in their memories. It's a sentence without an end, a journey without a destination. The mystery endures, suspended between what we know and what we can only imagine. Flight 303 is forever. Our story begins high above Earth, where satellites silently orbit, their metallic bodies glinting in the endless black. These remarkable machines, built by human hands, drift through the void, circling our planet with unwavering precision. From their vantage point, they see what we cannot: vast continents, swirling storms, and the ever-changing tapestry of clouds. Serving as our eyes in the sky, satellites are the silent sentinels of the modern world. They watch over us day and night, capturing every detail from thousands of kilometers above, providing vital information for weather, navigation, and science. One such satellite, Aegis 7, was tasked with a unique mission to monitor the remote, icy expanse of the Bering Sea. This region, where frigid winds whip across open water and ice floes drift endlessly, is as beautiful as it is unforgiving. Its mission was to track the movement of ice and monitor the ever-shifting weather patterns in this harsh, isolated corner of the world. The data it collected was crucial for scientists, navigators, and even fishermen braving these treacherous waters. On what seemed like an ordinary day, as Aegis 7 swept its sensors across the sea, it spotted something extraordinary, something that defied all expectations. Hidden within the wispy cirrus clouds was a long, thin, unmoving shape, far colder than anything else in the area. It stood out like a shadow in the snow, a silent enigma suspended in the sky. The anomaly was quickly flagged for further investigation. Algorithms highlighted the strange object, and soon human eyes were poring over the data, searching for answers. Scientists were baffled. There were no reports of missing aircraft, no known drones in the area, and nothing in the records that could explain what the satellite had seen. The data simply didn't fit any known pattern. The object was too high for ships, too still for weather balloons, and far too large for any drone or conventional aircraft. It was as if something had appeared in the sky that simply shouldn't exist. It was like finding a single, impossible footprint in a place where no one should have walked, a mark left by something unknown. The scientists dubbed it the glimmer for its faint, almost ghostly reflection of light. It shimmered in the satellite images, barely visible yet undeniably present. The Bering Sea, already a place of wild, untamed beauty, now hosted a mystery that seemed to come from another world. The icy waves and swirling mists hid secrets that no one had ever imagined. The scientists knew they had to act. This was just the beginning of a journey into the unknown, a chance to uncover something that could change our understanding of the world forever. The glimmer was a silent invitation, a challenge to explore the mysteries that still linger above us, waiting to be discovered. The stage was set for a close encounter with a puzzle in the sky, one that would test the limits of science, imagination, and human curiosity. The glimmer was a true enigma, a ghost in the clouds. Scientists pored over every pixel from Aegis 7, using thermal imaging to reveal the object's near absolute zero temperature. It was as if a piece of deep space had settled in our atmosphere. The shape resembled a jetliner's fuselage, but with no wings, tail, or engines, just a smooth, featureless cylinder. Radar couldn't detect it. Only sensitive optical and thermal cameras could. The glimmer absorbed radar waves, making it almost invisible. Its presence was unsettling. No seams, no markings, no clues. It floated, held by an unknown force, glimmering faintly in the sun. The team named it the Floating Glimmer, a silent visitor from an unknown place. They had to move from observation to action. The next step, send a probe to get closer to this ghostly anomaly. The mystery deepened and curiosity demanded answers. The investigation was about to escalate. To unravel the enigma of the glimmer, the team turned to technology that could brave the upper reaches of the atmosphere. High-altitude research drones, aptly named Seeker 1 and Seeker 2. These machines were designed for missions where human presence was impossible, venturing into the unknown with precision and resilience. Outfitted with an array of cutting-edge sensors and high-definition cameras, the drones were more than just flying machines. They were mobile laboratories capable of collecting data in real time. Every component was meticulously engineered to withstand the harsh, frigid conditions at such altitudes. Their journey began as they were launched from a specially modified aircraft high above the Earth's surface. Pilots and engineers stationed thousands of miles away guided the drones with steady hands and sharp eyes, relying on live telemetry and video feeds. The mission was clear: capture crystal-clear images of the glimmer, record subtle shifts in temperature and pressure, and sample the air for any unusual particles or chemical signatures. Every byte of data could hold a clue to the phenomenon's true nature. The launch sequence was executed flawlessly. Engines hummed, wings sliced through the thin air, and the drones climbed steadily, unwavering in their course toward the mysterious target. In the control room, a wall of screens displayed the drone's progress. The curve of the Earth was visible beneath swirling clouds, and the atmosphere in the room was thick with anticipation. Every team member was acutely aware that history could be made at any moment. As the drones pierced the upper layers of the atmosphere, they entered the icy cirrus clouds, just as satellite imagery had predicted. The temperature dropped sharply and the sensors began to register data never before captured at this altitude. In the control center, scientists leaned forward, eyes fixed on the monitors. Every second felt stretched, every blip on the screen a potential breakthrough. The tension was palpable, as if the entire world was holding its breath. These drones were more than machines. They were the embodiment of human curiosity and ingenuity, reaching into realms that had always been out of reach. They ventured where no person could ever hope to go, carrying with them the hopes of discovery. The signal remained strong, the approach unwavering. Every system performed flawlessly as the drones drew closer to the Glimmer's last known coordinates. The moment of truth was imminent. In the control room, anticipation reached a fever pitch as the drones edged ever closer to the heart of the mystery. Around the globe, millions tuned in to watch the live feed, sharing in the suspense and wonder. For a brief moment, humanity was united by curiosity. All eyes fixed on the silent messengers soaring above the clouds. The unknown was now within reach, closer than ever before. The data streaming in promised answers, but also hinted at new questions yet to be asked. In the next few moments, everything could change. The world waited, breathless, as the silent messengers prepared to reveal the secrets of the Glimmer. As Seeker 1 neared the Glimmer, its video feed flickered, then vanished. The drone disappeared from the screens, its signal cut off in an instant. No warning, no distress, just silence. The team scrambled to reconnect, but Seeker 1 was gone. All eyes turned to Seeker 2, trailing behind. Its feed was still live, but anxiety filled the room. Suddenly, static crept into Seeker 2's video. The pilot tried to turn back, but it was too late. The signal vanished, just like before. 2 advanced drones lost in minutes, with no trace or explanation. No mechanical failure, no distress call, just a patch of sky where machines ceased to exist. The Glimmer was no longer passive. It was actively resisting discovery. The team was left with only questions and a deep sense of unease. The mystery had grown darker. The Glimmer's secret was fiercely protected. The stakes had just escalated. The team combed through the last data from Seeker 2. Just before it vanished, the drone recorded a powerful burst of electromagnetic energy. This was no ordinary radio wave. It was a complex focus pattern, far stronger than lightning. The energy was concentrated exactly where the Glimmer floated. It wasn't a violent pulse, but a steady, overwhelming wave. The evidence pointed to an invisible field that instantly silenced electronics. The Glimmer was more than a shape. It was a source of immense, unexplained energy. The team realized the drones weren't lost to malfunction. They'd flown into a deadly field. This was both terrifying and thrilling, a tangible clue to the Glimmer's nature. The mystery was now about powerful, invisible forces at play. The scientists began to theorize what could create such a field. The Glimmer was no longer just a visual anomaly, it was a force to be reckoned with. The electromagnetic field was a puzzle within a puzzle. It was as if nature itself had hidden a secret, daring anyone to try and unravel it. The team of scientists, each an expert in their field, found themselves facing a phenomenon that defied their expectations and challenged their understanding of physics. The energy wave had a complex, repeating structure, almost like a signal, but with no decipherable message. It pulsed with a rhythm that seemed intentional, yet no code or language could be found within its patterns. The more they studied the waveforms, the more it felt like listening to a song in a language no one had ever heard before. Some compared it to the magnetic fields near neutron stars, but this was in our own sky. The intensity and structure were unlike anything ever recorded on Earth, and yet it hovered just above the ocean as if it belonged there. The field was like a tsunami of energy, overwhelming the drones instantly. The surge was so powerful that even the most robust shielding failed, leaving the machines helpless against the invisible force. No distress, no final data, just sudden silence. The control room, once alive with signals and chatter, became eerily quiet, as if the field had swallowed not just the drones, but their very connection to the outside world. Using satellites, the team observed the field. It was stable, contained, and didn't expand. The boundaries were precise, as if drawn by an unseen hand, and the energy within never leaked beyond its limits. Unlike natural fields, this one formed a tight bubble around the Glimmer. It was a perfect sphere, resisting the wind and waves, untouched by the chaos of the sea around it. It was as if an invisible wall protected the anomaly. Drones and instruments would simply stop, unable to cross, as if the laws of physics themselves had been rewritten at the edge of the bubble. What could generate such a powerful, stable field? Theories ranged from advanced technology to unknown natural phenomena, but none fit the evidence. The team debated late into the night, searching for answers in the data. Was it defense or a byproduct of something stranger? Was the field meant to keep something out, or to keep something in? The possibilities were as unsettling as they were fascinating. The glimmer was not just an object, but a system, a shape and a force, intertwined. Its presence seemed to warp reality, blending matter and energy in ways no one had ever seen. To understand one, they had to understand both. The team realized that the physical and energetic aspects of the glimmer were inseparable, each influencing the other in a delicate balance. The mystery demanded new thinking beyond conventional science. Old equations and familiar models fell short, forcing the team to invent new ways of seeing and measuring the world. The team was on the edge of a radical discovery. Every new insight brought them closer to understanding the glimmer, and with it, the possibility of rewriting what humanity knew about the universe. The search for answers pushed them into uncharted territory, both in the ocean and in the mind. The puzzle of the waves was only the beginning. The scientists were stumped until Dr. Aris Thorne proposed the skyfold theory. He suggested the glimmer wasn't an object, but a window into another place. Space and time, he explained, can bend and fold. Sometimes, under rare conditions, space-time might fold, connecting distant places or times. A skyfold. Imagine folding a sheet of paper so two distant points touch. The skyfold is that shortcut. The glimmer could be a temporary rift, linking our sky to somewhere else in the universe. The extreme cold, the temperature of deep space leaking through. The smooth, featureless shape, the outline of the opening itself, the energy field, the result of two realities interacting. It was a wild idea, but it fit the facts. The glimmer was not a craft, but a cosmic phenomenon. The skyfold theory connected every clue. The team realized they might be witnessing a natural event beyond imagination. The universe had revealed a new, astonishing secret. The skyfold theory changed everything. The glimmer was not a threat, but a natural rift, a window between worlds. It explained the vanished drones. They weren't destroyed, but transported elsewhere, perhaps beyond our universe. The glimmer's appearance was a visual distortion, not a solid object. Our atmosphere flowed around a fixed point of connection to another reality. The faint glimmer was light from distant stars seen through a cosmic lens. The mission shifted from investigation to awe. The scientists stood at the edge of a new frontier. The skyfold was a reminder of the universe's complexity. It was a window that had opened, showing how much more there is to discover. The mystery was now a profound revelation. Today, the floating glimmer remains, a silent enigma above the Bering Sea. The skyfold theory is the leading explanation, but proof is elusive. No one dares send another probe. Satellites monitor the glimmer's energy and cold, but it remains untouched. Is the skyfold natural or created? What lies on the other side? Could something come through? The glimmer has turned science fiction into scientific possibility. It challenges us to rethink our universe. Even now, mysteries linger above us, waiting to be explored. The glimmer is a permanent question mark in our sky, a silent invitation to keep searching. The story is not over. The North Pacific Ocean is a world of endless blue, a vast and mysterious expanse that stretches farther than the eye can see. Its waters are deep, cold, and restless, holding secrets beneath their surface that have yet to be discovered by humankind. This immense ocean stretches from the shores of Asia all the way to the coasts of North America, forming a natural barrier and a bridge between continents. Here, powerful storms rage with little warning, and the weather can shift from calm to chaos in a matter of moments. Waves rise like mountains, crashing with a force that can humble even the largest ships. The ocean's surface is rarely still, always in motion, shaped by winds, tides, and the pull of the moon. High above this restless world, surveillance balloons drift silently, almost invisible to those below. These balloons are our silent watchers, our eyes in the sky, monitoring weather patterns, tracking shipping routes, and observing the vast emptiness that stretches for thousands of miles. These balloons endure months alone, braving the harsh elements and the isolation of the upper atmosphere. They watch for anything unusual, collecting data day and night, never resting, always vigilant. One day, one of these balloons detected something extraordinary. Something that defied explanation. Its sensors picked up a large, solid, completely stationary object, suspended high above the ocean, unmoving in a world defined by constant motion. In a realm where everything is always shifting, clouds, waves, winds, this stillness was profoundly unnatural. It was as if time itself had stopped around this mysterious shape. The data was relayed instantly to a distant control center, where analysts stared at their screens in disbelief. They had seen storms, ships, and even the occasional wayward aircraft, but never anything like this. The balloon's instruments were flawless, the readings were clear and precise, there was no malfunction, no error. The object was real and it was there, unmoving, defying the natural order of the skies. Below, a thick layer of fog and clouds blanketed the ocean, making direct observation from the surface impossible. The world beneath was hidden, shrouded in mist and mystery, but the balloon floating high above the clouds had a unique vantage point. From its silent perch, it could see what no ship or satellite could. It saw an anomaly hidden in the mist, a shape that seemed to defy explanation, faintly visible through the swirling clouds, a secret kept from the world below. The initial report sparked urgent curiosity and concern among the analysts. What could remain so perfectly still in such a turbulent environment? Was it a natural phenomenon or something else entirely? An unidentified, motionless object at cruising altitude was a serious matter. It posed questions about safety, about the unknown, and about what might be lurking in the skies above the world's largest ocean. The silent watcher had found something that was not supposed to be there, a frozen shape in a world of change, a mystery waiting to be unraveled in the endless blue. The balloon's data revealed a familiar yet impossible form, a large commercial airliner, its outline unmistakable even through the haze of the upper atmosphere. At first glance, it looked like any other jet crossing the sky, but the instruments told a different story. The data was clear. This was no ordinary flight. The aircraft was perfectly still at 30,000 feet, suspended in the air as if gravity and physics had simply ceased to apply. There was no sign of turbulence, no evidence of wind buffeting its wings or tail. It hovered in place, a silent sentinel above the clouds. Airplanes must move to stay aloft, relying on the constant rush of air over their wings to generate lift. Without forward motion, flight is impossible, at least according to everything we know about aerodynamics. But this object was frozen, as if time had stopped just for it. Clouds drifted by, casting shifting shadows, but the plane remained locked in place, untouched by the passage of time or the movement of the air around it. It didn't drift, didn't show propulsion, and was simply there, a fixed point in the sky. No contrails, no evidence of engines running, not even the faintest vibration or shimmer of heat. Thermal imaging showed it was as cold as the surrounding air, with no engine heat or electronic emissions. The sensors picked up nothing, no warmth from engines, no flicker of electronics, just a void where a living, working machine should be. It was thermally invisible, blending into the atmosphere like a sculpture of ice. The plane's body seemed to absorb the cold, becoming almost indistinguishable from the sky itself, as if it were carved from the very clouds. No power, no signals, no response to communication. Radio calls went unanswered, and the usual beacons of light that mark a plane's presence were absent. It was as if the aircraft had been stripped of all life and function. The object didn't broadcast a transponder signal, remaining silent and unresponsive. Air traffic control systems registered nothing, as if the plane existed outside the network of global aviation. For analysts, it was a puzzle with no solution, a plane-shaped phantom behaving unlike anything known. The more they studied it, the more questions arose, each answer slipping further from reach. Every new detail deepened the mystery. Was it a mirage, a trick of the light, or something far stranger? The evidence defied every conventional explanation. The object was a static silhouette against the clouds, challenging our understanding of flight. It was as if the laws of nature had been rewritten, if only for this one impossible moment. It was a ghost in the sky, defying logic. The more observers watched, the more it seemed to fade in and out of reality, never fully present, never fully gone. The question was no longer if it was real, but what it could possibly be. Was it a secret experiment, a glitch in perception, or a visitor from somewhere beyond our understanding? The search for answers had only begun. Investigators, scientists, and skywatchers alike were drawn to the enigma, determined to uncover the truth behind the anomaly in the sky, a mystery that would haunt their imaginations long after the object itself had vanished from view. The object was a paradox. A modern jet designed for speed, yet utterly still. It hovered in the sky as if time itself had paused, its sleek frame suspended above the clouds, untouched by the forces that should have sent it racing across the horizon. To the naked eye, it looked like any other aircraft, but its motionless presence was deeply unsettling, as if the laws of physics had been quietly rewritten. It didn't ascend, descend, or drift, remaining locked in place for hours. The world around it changed. Clouds shifted, winds howled, and the sun arced across the sky, but the jet remained fixed, as if anchored to an invisible point in space. Observers on the ground and in the control tower watched in disbelief, unable to explain how such a thing was possible. This ruled out debris or a drifting balloon. It defied gravity and wind. No ordinary object could resist the relentless push of the atmosphere for so long. Theories were whispered: malfunctioning drone, optical illusion, even a secret military test, but none fit the facts. The object's persistence was beyond anything previously encountered. The implications were serious. A stationary, invisible object at a major air corridor was a hazard. Air traffic controllers scrambled to reroute flights, fearing a collision with the unmoving phantom. The safety of hundreds of passengers and crew was suddenly at risk, and the pressure mounted with every passing minute. Immediate investigation was needed for aviation safety. The airport's crisis team convened, weighing the risks and debating possible explanations. Every second counted, and the need for answers grew more urgent as the anomaly refused to budge. The decision: send military jets to intercept and identify the phenomenon. Only trained pilots, equipped with the best technology, could get close enough to see what radar and cameras could not. The mission was risky, but there was no alternative. Pilots would fly into thick fog, guided only by balloon data and strange readings. Visibility was near zero, and the air was thick with tension. Every instrument reading was scrutinized, every anomaly noted as the jets closed in on the mysterious target. This was no routine mission, it was a journey into the unknown. The pilots knew they might encounter something never before seen in aviation history. Their training had prepared them for emergencies, but not for the impossible. The object was a phantom, frozen in time, breaking the rules of the sky. It seemed to exist in a space between reality and imagination, a riddle that challenged everything pilots and scientists thought they knew about flight. The mission was clear, but the outcome was uncertain. Every detail was reviewed, every contingency considered, but no one could predict what they would find. The air was thick with anticipation and a hint of fear. Human eyes were needed to confirm what machines had found. Only by seeing the object up close could the truth be revealed. The pilot's senses were on high alert, every nerve attuned to the slightest change in the air. The pilots prepared for a flight toward a mystery that defied explanation. As engines roared to life and the sun rose higher, they steeled themselves for whatever lay ahead, knowing that history might be made or rewritten by what they would discover. The static plane waited, silent and unmoving. The unknown beckoned, daring the pilots to solve a puzzle that had never before been seen in the annals of flight. Two advanced fighter jets were scrambled from a Pacific airbase. Their mission: reach the coordinates, identify the object and report back. The pilots, highly trained, expected a simple explanation: a balloon, a drone, or a sensor error. But as they approached, their navigation systems began to fail. GPS coordinates jumped, backup systems glitched, and radios filled with static. Radar showed fleeting, ghost-like images that vanished before they could be locked. The jets were flying blind, their technology failing as they neared the anomaly. The mission quickly became a struggle against an unseen force. The pilots pressed on, determined to find answers. Every system failure heightened the sense of danger. The object's influence was undeniable. The search for the static plane had become a test of skill and nerve. Guided by the last reliable coordinates, the pilots descended into dense fog. Visibility dropped to near zero, they flew by instruments alone. Inside the fog, technical malfunctions intensified. Displays flickered, compasses spun, and radar was useless. The pilots relied on their training and the balloon's guidance from above. According to sensors, they were flying right next to the object, yet saw only white. The fog felt like an active barrier, hiding the anomaly from view. The pilots felt a growing unease, as if they were not alone. Every pass brought them closer, but the object remained invisible. The sense of intrusion was palpable. The white abyss concealed something powerful and strange. The static plane remained hidden, its presence felt but never seen. On a slow pass, one pilot glimpsed a soft, warm glow through the fog, like passenger windows lit at night. The light vanished instantly, swallowed by mist. The second pilot confirmed seeing faint, rectangular lights in a line, just like on an airliner. The lights suggested an interior, maybe even occupants. The object felt manufactured, purposeful, not just debris or a weather oddity. Multiple passes yielded no further sightings. The lights never reappeared. The brief illumination raised more questions. Was it communication, a warning, or something else? The human element made the encounter more unsettling. The familiar glow in such an alien context was deeply unnerving. The pilots had seen a crack in the veil, something both familiar and profoundly strange. The mystery deepened. With technical problems mounting, the mission was aborted. As the jets left the area, their instruments returned to normal, confirming the interference was external. The object's influence was localized, a sphere of disruption. The pilots never made visual contact, only glimpsed ghostly lights. Debriefing confirmed the malfunctions and strange experiences. The object was real, active, and perfectly motionless. It allowed investigators close, but never close enough to understand. The static plane kept its secrets, frozen in the clouds. The mission ended, but the enigma grew. The unreachable object was a true anomaly. Its purpose and nature remained a mystery. In the aftermath, experts searched for explanations. Some proposed a rare weather phenomenon, an atmospheric mirage or radar echo, but weather can't explain the clear shape, steady lights, or perfect stillness. Others suggested secret technology, a new drone or experimental craft. Yet its behavior didn't fit any known purpose or pattern. If it was surveillance, why remain static and visible? If a weapon, why so passive? Each theory raised more questions than answers. The static plane defied easy explanation, the mystery only deepened. The static plane was never seen again. It appeared, confounded our best technology, then vanished. Only data and pilot testimony remain. A modern legend among aviators. The event challenges our understanding of physics and technology. Was it a rare, natural event, secret tech, or something else entirely? Its purpose and origin are unknown. The story reminds us that mystery still exists, even in a mapped world. The frozen phantom of the North Pacific endures. The world is full of wonders, both natural and man-made. From the tallest mountains to the deepest oceans, from ancient forests to the neon glow of modern cities, our planet is a tapestry of marvels. Humanity has always been driven to explore, to build, and to push the boundaries of what is possible. We build cities that touch the sky, monuments to our ambition and ingenuity, each one a testament to our desire to reach ever higher. And we create machines that carry us through these cities and across continents, trusting in the logic of circuits and the certainty of code. Every day, millions of people place their faith in technology, believing it will keep them safe and connected. But sometimes, something happens that defies all understanding, a reminder of how much we still don't know. Even in a world built on reason, the unexpected can slip through the cracks. This is the story of Flight 741, a routine journey that became anything but ordinary. What began as a simple crossing would soon become a puzzle that no one could easily solve. On a normal day, high above the Earth, a passenger jet crossed the ocean, hundreds of souls suspended between continents, trusting the technology that held them aloft. The passengers chatted, read and slept, unaware that anything unusual was about to occur. The aircraft, a marvel of engineering, performed perfectly. Its engines hummed a steady rhythm, and every system reported normal. It was a flight like any other until it wasn't. Yet deep within its electronic system, something strange was about to happen. A digital ghost was about to stir. Unseen by the crew or passengers, a silent anomaly crept into the heart of the machine. The incident wasn't a loud explosion or mechanical failure. It was quieter and far more unsettling. There was no warning, no obvious sign, just a subtle shift, a moment that passed almost unnoticed. A dormant system suddenly awoke, performed a single, inexplicable task, and then fell silent. The event lasted only seconds, but its impact would echo for years. This fleeting moment left behind a single corrupted file, a digital breadcrumb that has puzzled investigators ever since. Experts pored over the data searching for answers, but the truth remained elusive. What happened on that flight challenges our assumptions about technology and reality itself. It forces us to confront the limits of our understanding and to wonder what else might be lurking in the systems we trust. Was it a glitch or something more, a message from a place beyond our world, or perhaps a warning that our machines are not as infallible as we believe? The mystery of Flight 741 is about the fine line between what we know and the vast unknown waiting just beyond our perception. In the end, it reminds us that even in a world of science and certainty, there is always room for the unexplained. For the passengers and crew of Flight 741, the journey was uneventful. The in-flight Wi-Fi system had been deactivated for weeks due to technical issues, leaving the aircraft digitally isolated. Passengers were informed before boarding. No emails, no social media, no news from the ground. The cabin became a rare pocket of technological silence. The Wi-Fi routers were powered down, awaiting a future software patch. The airline was clear the system was not just faulty, it was completely offline. Engineers confirmed it was not to be activated under any circumstances. For the crew, the lack of Wi-Fi meant fewer distractions and more focus on the flight. The aircraft moved through the sky, a self-contained world, unaware of the digital anomaly about to breach its isolation. The Wi-Fi was not merely weak or intermittent, it was dead. No one on board tried to connect to a network they knew didn't exist. This context is crucial to understanding the mystery that would unfold. The stage was set for something impossible. Halfway through the flight, high above the endless Pacific, the impossible happened. Something no one on board could have anticipated. For just under 4 minutes, the dormant Wi-Fi system, which had been completely inactive since takeoff, suddenly flickered to life. But this wasn't for the passengers. No one browsing, no notifications pinging. Instead, deep within the aircraft's hidden servers, something stirred. The system, as if guided by an unseen hand, established a brief, weak connection to a maintenance satellite orbiting far above the Earth. In that fleeting moment, it uploaded a single, small audio file, heavily corrupted, riddled with static and digital noise, almost as if it was never meant to be heard. Then, just as abruptly as it had awoken, the system powered down, the lights faded, the servers went silent, and the anomaly vanished without a trace. On the ground, the mysterious file arrived at an airline server, immediately flagged as an anomaly by the automated monitoring systems. Engineers were baffled. The system that sent it should have been completely inactive, with no scheduled tests, no manual commands, and no reason to transmit anything at all. It was, by every technical definition, a ghost transmission, something that simply should not have been possible, defying all established protocols and logic. The file wasn't a system sound, a routine ping or diagnostic data. It was unmistakably audio, something far more personal and unsettling. Specialized software was required to painstakingly clean up the recording, filtering out layers of static, interference, and digital distortion. After hours of meticulous work, the engineers uncovered something chilling, something that sent a shiver down their spines. It was the sound of a human voice, whispering words that were almost lost in the static, but undeniably there. A single, clear voice, speaking from the heart of the isolated flight, had been captured and sent across the silent ocean. The mystery deepened, leaving more questions than answers. As the technical team painstakingly restored the corrupted audio, they began to notice a pattern, a faint but unmistakable voice emerging from the static. After hours of careful isolation and enhancement, the voice of a young woman became clear, as if she was speaking from another world. It wasn't a conversation or a cry for help. Her tone was calm, almost meditative, surrounded by a strange, low hum that seemed to vibrate beneath her words. The hum itself was unlike any background noise the technicians had encountered before, adding an eerie quality to the recording. The recording was startlingly clear, as if the microphone was right next to her, capturing every nuance of her breath and every subtle inflection in her voice. It was as though she was speaking directly to whoever would one day listen. Investigators cross-referenced the passenger manifest, searching for a match to the voice. They found one name, Sarah Lynn, a 27-year-old PhD student in astrophysics, whose background immediately caught their attention. Known for her brilliance and imagination, Sarah's presence added a new layer to the mystery. Professors described her as a visionary, someone who saw connections where others saw only chaos. She was traveling alone, seated by a window, quiet and focused, her mind often lost in thought. She seemed to exist in her own world, even in a crowded cabin. Fellow passengers recalled her as solitary, lost in thought, rarely interacting with others. Some remembered her scribbling notes or gazing out at the clouds, as if searching for answers beyond the horizon. The discovery of her voice on the recording was perplexing. No one could explain how or why she had made the recording, or what she had hoped to communicate. The message was private, a whispered observation, as if she was documenting an experience only she could perceive. Her words hinted at something extraordinary, something just beyond ordinary understanding. Sarah Lynn wasn't just any passenger. Her expertise in cosmology gave her words weight. She spoke with the authority of someone who had spent years contemplating the nature of the universe. When she spoke of a reality that was nothing, the audio file became a profound philosophical puzzle. Was she describing a scientific phenomenon, or something more personal and existential? Investigators knew they had to understand what she was saying and why. The urgency to decode her message grew with every replay of the haunting audio. The enigma had shifted from technical to deeply human, leaving everyone involved searching for meaning in Sarah's final enigmatic words. After hours of restoration, the technicians isolated the complete phrase. Sarah's voice, soft and calm, spoke, "It's not night, it's not day, it's not sky, it's nothing." The simplicity of her words was haunting. She wasn't using scientific jargon, just basic language to describe the absence of everything. The repetition of "it's not" stripped away layers of reality, time, space, and finally, existence itself. It sounded less like a dream and more like a direct observation of an impossible void. This message, sent from a silent aircraft, became the central enigma of Flight 741. What could lead someone to describe their surroundings this way? Was it a scientific metaphor, Or did she see something else entirely? The words remain a cryptic dispatch from a place we cannot identify. Investigators needed to confirm the voice was Sarah Lynn's. They gathered public recordings of her presentations and interviews, establishing a clear baseline. Forensic audio analysts used advanced software to compare the mysterious whisper to Sarah's known voice. The process, similar to fingerprint analysis, mapped dozens of vocal markers. The result, a match with over 99% certainty. The voice on the recording was undeniably Sarah Lynn's. This confirmation grounded the mystery in a specific person and moment. Sarah was a grounded, evidence-based researcher, not prone to fantasy. For her to make such a statement suggested she observed something she believed was real. The focus shifted from who to why. The mystery was no longer just technical, it was about the experience of a credible witness. Experts from various fields proposed theories to explain the events. Some engineers suggested a rare cascade of software bugs and a power surge could have activated the Wi-Fi, capturing audio from a nearby device. But the system was physically configured to prevent activation, making this scenario almost impossible. The odds of the system activating, connecting, accessing a specific audio file and uploading it in 4 minutes are astronomically small. Others suggested Sarah was in a unique mental state, perhaps a lucid dream or a hypnagogic state, her scientific mind constructing a metaphor for the void outside. But this doesn't explain the technological anomaly. The two halves of the mystery, the human experience and the technical event, remain linked. Some even considered supernatural possibilities. Was it a message meant to be sent, using Sarah and the aircraft as a conduit? No theory fully explains what happened. The enigma persists. When the flight landed, Sarah Lynn disembarked calmly, showing no signs of distress. When approached by authorities, she was polite but had no memory of whispering those words. She confirmed it was her voice but was puzzled. She couldn't recall when or why she'd said it. This lack of memory is one of the most fascinating aspects of the case. Was it a form of transient amnesia, or was the experience simply too strange for her mind to retain? We have her voice but not her memory. Was she a passive observer, or did she glimpse a phenomenon beyond current science? Sarah returned to her life and work, never speaking publicly about the incident. She remains the silent center of an enigma that bears her voice. Without her memory, we're left with only echoes, a corrupted file, a confirmed voice, and words that challenge our understanding. The mystery is as much about the mind as the machine. Years later, the mystery of Flight 741 remains unsolved. The official report lists it as an unexplained electronic anomaly. The story has become a quiet legend, a reminder that for all our progress, we don't have all the answers. We have the event, the message, and the witness, but the threads connecting them remain invisible. Mysteries like this challenge our certainties and push the boundaries of curiosity. In an age of information, these unsolved puzzles are humbling. The silence from Flight 741 endures not because of what we know, but because of what we do not. And so we are left to wonder, what lies just beyond the August 1st, 2025, Narita International Airport, Tokyo. The city was just waking up, the first rays of sunlight glinting off the glass and steel of the terminal. Passengers hurried through the arrival hall, dragging suitcases, checking their phones and greeting loved ones. Outside, the air was thick with the anticipation of a new day, and the distant hum of jet engines was a familiar comfort. The day began like any other, routine, predictable and meticulously scheduled. Flights landed and departed with mechanical precision, and the staff moved with practiced efficiency. No one suspected that anything unusual was about to unfold. But then, as the sun crested the horizon, something strange appeared in the sky. At first, it was just a distant speck, barely noticeable against the pale blue. Soon it grew larger, drifting lower, catching the attention of ground crew and passengers alike. It wasn't a plane, but a high-altitude weather balloon, its silvery skin shimmering as it descended towards an unused runway. The balloon moved with an eerie calm, as if guided by invisible hands, and landed with surprising gentleness. Balloons like this are launched daily from research stations around the world, collecting data from the upper atmosphere. But for one to land so precisely at a major international airport in the heart of Tokyo was extraordinary, almost impossible. Ground crews approached the balloon with caution, expecting a routine recovery. They had handled weather balloons before, but something about this one felt different. The air was tense, and a hush fell over the tarmac as they drew closer. The balloon's payload box was battered, its surface scarred and pitted as if it had survived a long and violent journey through storms and turbulence. The equipment inside looked damaged, but intact, except for one thing. Inside, instead of the usual meteorological sensors and data loggers, They found a bundle of papers sealed in a waterproof pouch and perfectly preserved. The documents looked official, out of place among the scientific gear. The lead technician, a veteran of 30 years, felt a chill as he lifted the documents from the box. He had seen many things in his career, but never anything like this. The papers were heavy with significance, and a sense of foreboding settled over the crew. They were official flight manifest pages. Oceanic Airlines Flight 741. The airline's logo was unmistakable, and the passenger list was neatly typed, as if waiting to be discovered. The name sent a shock through the crew. Whispers spread quickly, and even the most seasoned staff members exchanged uneasy glances. Everyone knew the story. Flight 741 had vanished a year earlier over the vast Pacific Ocean, with 239 people aboard. The disappearance had dominated headlines, sparked international searches, and left families desperate for answers. It was a modern mystery. No wreckage, no distress signal, no answers. The world had watched as search and rescue teams scoured thousands of miles of open water, but nothing was ever found. The fate of Flight 741 remained one of aviation's greatest enigmas. Now a piece of that mystery had returned, delivered by the most improbable of messengers. A weather balloon drifting across continents and oceans, carrying secrets that refused to stay buried. The enigma had only deepened. As the morning haze rolled over the runway, the airport stood silent, holding its breath. What other secrets might be waiting to surface? And what new questions would this discovery raise? Among the manifest pages, one stood out, its edges slightly more worn, the paper a shade yellower than the rest, as if it had been handled more often or kept apart for a reason. It was a page that seemed to hum with a quiet significance, drawing the eye and inviting closer inspection. This was the final sheet, reserved for crew signatures, a formality at the end of every flight, but now, in this context, it felt like a relic from another world. The names, usually a routine record, now carried the weight of memory and loss. Tucked inside, almost hidden between the pages, was a small handwritten note. The paper was creased, the ink slightly smudged, as if it had travelled far and endured much before reaching this moment. 4 words, written in a steady hand: "We are not lost." The message was simple, yet it echoed with a haunting ambiguity. Was it reassurance, defiance, or a coded plea for help? Beneath those words, a signature: Captain Eli Strasser. The ink trailed off at the end, as if written in haste or under duress, but the name was unmistakable. The name was instantly recognized. Strasser was the pilot in command when Flight 741 disappeared without a trace. His reputation was one of calm under pressure, a leader trusted by crew and passengers alike. Forensic analysis left no doubt. The handwriting was his. Experts compared the note to years of logbooks and personal letters, confirming its authenticity. This was not a forgery or a cruel prank. The implications were staggering. Flight 741 vanished in September 2024, and yet this note surfaced nearly a year later, postmarked with a date that defied explanation. How could a message from a lost flight find its way back after so long? The weather balloon that carried the note had its serial numbers deliberately scratched away, erasing any clue to its origin. Investigators were left with the puzzle: who sent it and from where? The message itself was the greatest puzzle. Was it a sign of survival, a cryptic farewell, or something more sinister? The words seemed to hover between hope and despair. For the families waiting in limbo, the note was both a lifeline and a torment. Was it hope? A sign the passengers and crew were alive, somewhere, somehow? Or was it a final message, meant to bring closure, but only deepening the mystery? The words comforted and unsettled in equal measure. Some clung to the possibility of a miracle, while others feared the note was a cruel reminder of all they had lost. For families, it was a glimmer of hope and a new torment. The note reignited old questions and sparked new theories, fueling both public fascination and private grief. The note was not an answer, but the start of a deeper question. It became a symbol of mystery, of longing, and of the human need to understand the unexplainable. The world demanded to know. What did it mean? Was it a message from the beyond, a clue to the fate of Flight 741, or simply a riddle that would haunt everyone who read it? The search for answers had only just begun. Captain Eli Strasser was the embodiment of professionalism. 53 years old, with over 20,000 flight hours logged in his career. He was a model pilot, respected by everyone who knew him, and his reputation for calm under pressure was legendary in the aviation community. Strasser's colleagues often described him as the kind of captain you'd want at the controls during any crisis: steady, unflappable, and always prepared for the unexpected. Outside the cockpit, Strasser was just as admired. He was a devoted husband and father, known for his warmth and generosity. His family cherished his gentle humor and unwavering support, while his friends and co-workers trusted his judgment implicitly. Calm, meticulous, and never a risk-taker, he was the kind of person who made those around him feel safe. His life was marked by stability and routine. Strasser's record was spotless: no disciplinary actions, no complaints, and a long list of commendations for excellence. He took pride in his work, maintaining the highest standards of safety and professionalism at all times. When investigators began to look into his background after the disappearance of Flight 741, they found nothing out of the ordinary. There were no signs of financial trouble, no evidence of personal distress, and no hidden secrets. Strasser's life seemed as orderly and predictable as his flight plans. Yet, when Flight 741 vanished without a trace, it was precisely Strasser's impeccable background that made the mystery even more perplexing. How could a man so reliable, so grounded, simply disappear along with his aircraft and passengers? Among the few clues left behind was a handwritten note. The script was calm and confident, unmistakably matching the man everyone knew. There was no sign of panic or fear in the words, just the steady hand of a professional. Experts agreed. This was not the writing of someone in distress. The note reflected the same composure Strasser was known for, even in the most challenging situations. The evidence forced investigators to reconsider their assumptions. Was it possible that Strasser had not led his passengers to disaster, but to a destination? Could he have orchestrated something no one had anticipated? The message he left behind suggested a journey, not an accident. It hinted at purpose, at intention rather than catastrophe. For those who knew Strasser, the character of the man made the note impossible to dismiss. It was as if he was still guiding the narrative, even in his absence. The world was left to wonder what had really happened in the cockpit that night. Was there a plan no one had foreseen, or was it simply the final act of a man who had always been in control? The enigma of Captain Eli Strasser, once a symbol of certainty, now stood at the very heart of the story, a mystery that would haunt investigators and families alike for years to come. Oceanic Airlines Flight 741 was a routine Los Angeles to Sydney flight, September 15, 2024. 227 passengers, 12 crew, a modern Boeing 777, clear weather. The flight was uneventful for hours with regular check-ins. The last radio contact, Captain Strasser, calm as ever. Moments later, the plane vanished from radar. No distress call, no warning. Search and rescue operations scoured millions of square miles of ocean. No wreckage, no debris, no oil slicks, nothing. The aircraft seemed to have disappeared without a trace. The official investigation concluded Flight 741 was lost, its fate unknown. For families and investigators, the lack of evidence was the most haunting detail. The ocean had swallowed the plane whole. The world was left with only questions. And now, a year later, a message had returned. In the control center, Flight 741's handover was routine, until it wasn't. The plane's icon blinked off the radar, not with drama, but with chilling silence. Controllers assumed a technical glitch, calling out, "Oceanic 741, do you read?" No response. Minutes stretched into an hour. Dread filled the room. Search protocols began, military aircraft scrambled, ships diverted, but the ocean yielded nothing. No wreckage, no beacons, no clues. Theories circulated, catastrophic failure, ghost flight, remote crash. But without evidence, all was speculation. The sky had gone silent and the ocean kept its secrets. The disappearance was total. The world was left in the dark. With no evidence, imagination took flight. Theories once confined to science fiction entered mainstream debate. Some believed Flight 741 had entered a wormhole or rift in space-time, vanishing into another dimension. The message, "We are not lost," became a beacon for these ideas. Others speculated about alien abduction, citing the lack of distress signals or wreckage. The weather balloon was seen as a message in a bottle from another reality. Mainstream science dismissed these theories, but they offered comfort to a public desperate for answers. The idea that the passengers might be alive somewhere was more bearable than the alternative. The tragedy became an adventure, a cosmic mystery. The world was captivated by the possibilities. Scientists and investigators sought rational explanations. The manifest and note were genuine. No forgery, no modern contamination. The balloon's journey defied physics. No model could explain its path. Some suspected a hoax, but the signature was authentic and the motive unclear. The facts were impossible to reconcile. Could unknown atmospheric phenomena be at play? Did survivors launch the balloon from an uncharted island? Every rational theory crumbled under scrutiny. The scientific community was forced to consider the unthinkable. The mystery only deepened. The search for answers continued. For the families of Flight 741, the year since the disappearance was a journey through grief. Memorials were held, lives rebuilt around a void. The official declaration of loss brought painful closure. Then the note arrived, shattering peace, reigniting hope. "We are not lost" was both a lifeline and a torment. Families gathered, hope and anguish mingling. Support groups revived, clinging to the captain's words. But psychologists warned of ambiguous loss, trapped between mourning and hope. The world watched, captivated by the human drama. The families became the face of the mystery. Their vigil was shared by millions. The message was more than a puzzle. It was a symbol of hope and heartbreak. August 2nd, 2025, the world is no closer to answers. The story of Flight 741 is now legend, a modern myth. The manifest and note are preserved, studied, debated. They are proof that our understanding of the world is incomplete. The balloon sits in silence, its secrets intact. The legacy of Flight 741 is enduring questions and humbled certainty. For families, life continues in limbo, some hope, some seek closure. The message, "We are not lost," is their epitaph. As long as the story is told, the journey continues. Flight 741 remains an echo in the sky. Our planet's surface is mapped and measured, its mountains, rivers and cities charted in exquisite detail. We think we know every corner of our world, every inch accounted for by satellites and explorers. But the skies above still hold secrets, vast, uncharted realms that defy easy explanation. High above, in remote stretches of airspace where few ever venture, pilots report strange, unsettling experiences that challenge their understanding of flight. These aren't places on any map, but invisible zones, hidden pockets in the atmosphere where reality itself seems to shift and the ordinary rules no longer apply. Pilots, trained rational professionals, describe entering pockets of air, where the laws of physics and technology falter, where instruments spin wildly or time seems to stretch and contract. In these lonely regions, the familiar becomes uncertain. The sky, once a place of order and predictability, turns into a realm of the unknown. Stories circulate quietly among aviators, a quadrant of sky where the air feels charged, where unease settles in before anything happens, and where even the most seasoned pilots feel a chill. Over decades, similar reports have emerged from different pilots flying different aircraft, yet describing the same chilling phenomena. Mysterious turbulence, sudden drops in temperature, or inexplicable radio silence. What makes these accounts compelling is the credibility of the witnesses, men and women governed by checklists and science, not fantasy or superstition. When they report the inexplicable, it demands attention. Their voices carry the weight of experience and responsibility. These are not casual observers, but professionals responsible for hundreds of lives, trusted to navigate the most challenging conditions. Their experiences challenge not just their training, but our understanding of the world above, forcing us to confront the possibility that the sky is not as empty or as simple as we once believed. The sky, it seems, still guards its mysteries, holding on to secrets that have yet to be revealed. These silent quadrants remain unexplained, their secrets shared only in hushed conversations between those who have seen too much to dismiss. The stories are consistent, the details unnerving, and the sense of mystery only deepens with each new account. In the vastness above, there are still frontiers left to explore, uncharted territories that challenge our imagination and our science. And the mystery endures, waiting for answers, inviting the next generation of explorers to uncover what lies hidden in aviation's unseen frontier. The cockpit is a sanctuary of precision until it isn't. For pilots, this space is meant to be a fortress of certainty, where every switch, dial and display is a trusted ally in the sky. But sometimes that trust is shattered in an instant. In these mysterious regions, pilots report sudden, inexplicable failures of critical instruments. The failures seem to come out of nowhere, with no warning, and often affect multiple systems at once. Imagine flying at cruising altitude when the compass spins, the GPS blanks, and the altimeter jumps while the plane flies steady. The outside world looks normal, but inside the cockpit, chaos reigns as the instruments contradict reality. The crew is forced to rely on basic navigation, their senses at odds with malfunctioning technology. They turn to old-school methods, paper charts, visual cues, and gut instinct while trying to keep calm under pressure. These failures aren't caused by broken wires or faulty parts. Instruments often return to normal as soon as the aircraft leaves the area. It's as if the problem never existed, leaving no trace for mechanics to find. Post-flight checks reveal nothing wrong. The logs show a clean bill of health and the aircraft is cleared for its next journey. As if the incident was just a figment of the imagination. It's as if the plane passed through a bubble where the rules of electromagnetism were suspended. Some pilots describe it as flying through an invisible force field, a place where the normal laws of physics seem to bend. For pilots trained to trust their instruments over their senses, this reversal is deeply unsettling. The very foundation of their training is thrown into question, and every decision becomes fraught with doubt. The experience leaves a lasting mark, a reminder that despite our technology, the sky can still confound us. Even the most seasoned aviators are left shaken, replaying the incident in their minds long after landing. The conflict between human intuition and machine data creates a unique kind of fear. It's a fear rooted not just in danger but in uncertainty, a sense that something beyond understanding is at work. These incidents are not isolated, they form a pattern across time and geography. Pilots from different eras and backgrounds report eerily similar experiences, suggesting a phenomenon that transcends individual error or equipment failure. The cockpit, usually a place of control, becomes a stage for the unknown. In these moments, the familiar glow of instrument lights offers little comfort. Pilots emerge shaken, their confidence in technology rattled. Some never speak of it again, while others become obsessed with finding answers. The sky, for all our advancements, remains unpredictable. No matter how advanced our machines become, there are still mysteries that defy explanation. These moments of uncertainty are a stark reminder of our limits. They force us to confront the reality that not everything can be controlled or understood. In the end, the mystery persists, challenging both science and skill. Each incident adds another layer to the enigma, fueling speculation and debate. The cockpit's reliability is not absolute, not in these skies. For every answer we find, new questions emerge, reminding us that the unknown still lurks above the clouds. Beyond failing instruments, pilots encounter something stranger, a persistent low-frequency hum that seems to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. It's not engine noise or wind, but a deep vibration that fills the cockpit, felt as much as heard. The sensation creeps into the bones, making every surface seem to resonate with an invisible energy. The source is a mystery. It doesn't register on sensors or recordings. No matter how advanced the equipment, nothing picks up the anomaly, leaving pilots to question their own senses. Sometimes the hum is accompanied by shimmering air outside, as if the world itself is wavering. The horizon blurs, and familiar landmarks seem to melt into abstraction. These effects occur at high altitudes, where the air should be still and cold. Up here, the sky is supposed to be predictable, yet this phenomenon defies all expectations. The combination of the hum and visual distortion is disorienting, making the familiar seem dreamlike. Pilots report a sense of unreality, as if they've slipped into another dimension. When the aircraft leaves the area, the hum fades and the world snaps back to normal. The transition is abrupt, almost jarring, as if waking from a vivid dream. No evidence remains, only the memory of a strange sensory event. Pilots are left with questions and a lingering sense of awe. Pilots describe it as passing through a different kind of space, where normal rules don't apply. It's as if the aircraft briefly enters a hidden layer of reality. The phenomenon is consistent across reports, yet defies explanation. Veteran aviators and newcomers alike have experienced it, and their stories echo with the same uncanny details. It's not just technology affected, human senses are too. The hum lingers in the mind, sometimes for hours after landing, as if the experience refuses to let go. The sky's symphony is one of the most baffling mysteries pilots face. It's a reminder that, even in the age of advanced flight, the heavens still hold secrets. It suggests forces at work that we do not yet understand. Each encounter is a brush with the unknown, a fleeting glimpse into the universe's hidden depths. The experience lingers, haunting those who hear it, and reminding us that the sky is far more mysterious than we can ever imagine. At altitude, the night sky is familiar until it isn't. In these remote regions, pilots report seeing mysterious, blinking lights. These aren't aircraft or stars. They're bright, fixed points, often far above any known flight path. The lights remain motionless for hours, blinking with a steady rhythm. This defies the behavior of any known object in the sky. Sometimes they appear above thick clouds, visible only to those flying high. There's no sound, no radar contact, just a visual anomaly. Multiple crew members often witness the same light, ruling out individual illusion. No physical evidence is left behind, only consistent testimony. The experience is eerie, hypnotic, and unexplained. These beacons challenge our understanding of what shares our skies. Pilots are left with questions, not answers. The lights remain silent and unsolved. The radio is a pilot's lifeline until it becomes a source of fear. In these zones, static fills the airwaves, but sometimes voices break through. These aren't controllers or other pilots, but phantom announcements, destinations that don't match the flight, times that make no sense. The voices are clear for a moment, then vanish into static. Pilots check their systems, no such messages exist. It's as if the radio is tuned to another reality. Some hear strange music or tones with no identifiable source. The phenomenon is deeply unsettling, adding a human element to the mystery. Explanations range from atmospheric interference to signals bouncing from afar, but the content is often too specific and bizarre. The crew must focus on flying, but the experience lingers. The radio, meant for order, becomes a channel for chaos. These transmissions are reported by multiple crews across years and continents. The voices and sounds remain unexplained, haunting the lonely skies. The mystery deepens with every report. The air whispers secrets no one can decode. Science seeks rational answers. Many phenomena could be explained by atmospheric refraction, electrical events, or magnetic anomalies. Mirages, plasma discharges, and magnetic interference can all create illusions and instrument failures. Visual distortions might result from the interaction of aircraft heat with cold air. Blinking lights could be satellites or weather balloons, misidentified in unusual conditions. The human eye and mind are easily tricked, especially in the challenging environment of the cockpit. These explanations account for some incidents, but not all. The motionless lights and intelligent-sounding radio messages remain stubbornly outside scientific explanation. Science provides partial answers, but the core mystery persists. The sky's secrets are not so easily unraveled. When science falls short, speculation begins. Some suggest these events are not natural, but the result of intelligence, unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAP. Theories range from advanced technology to intersections with other dimensions or realities. Instrument failures, humming, and phantom voices could be signs of something beyond our understanding. These ideas are unproven, but they persist because the mystery endures. The evidence is inconclusive, leaving room for imagination. Science searches for answers, but unconventional theories fill the gaps. The unknown invites us to wonder. The human mind is part of the equation. Fatigue, stress, and long hours at altitude can affect perception. Visual illusions like autokinesis and hypnagogic hallucinations may explain some sightings and sounds. A tired brain is more susceptible to tricks of light and phantom noises. Yet pilots are trained professionals working in pairs to cross-check reality. Shared experiences and simultaneous instrument failures suggest something more than psychology alone. The mystery is a complex interplay of mind, machine, and environment. Human factors matter, but don't explain everything. The enigma remains. After all the evidence and theories, the enigma endures. Some events can be explained, but a core set remains outside our understanding. The motionless lights, phantom voices, and simultaneous instrument failures form a genuine puzzle. Aviation is built on certainty, yet these stories remind us of the unknown. Scientists and psychologists continue to search for answers. Pilots keep flying, watching, and sharing their stories. Each report adds to the puzzle, pushing the boundaries of knowledge. The sky inspires curiosity and wonder, not just travel. Pilots are explorers on the frontier.